Crane trying to look to the inside of the Yas Heat driver.
Now, oh, big snap of oversteer. There's going to be contact nearly four. Down the outside. Oh, there's big contact. Oh, that is huge.
From coast to coast, the ISOWC rolls on in 2021. It's been the Valtteri Alander showcase so far, but as we get set to go oval racing for the first time this season from the virtual Auto Club Speedway, all bets are off the table, and it's anyone's game to take victory in round 3 of this 2021 season. Hello and welcome back to RaceSpotTV for continued coverage of the summer of IndyCar action. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati, delighted to be joined as always by Lewis McLeod in the commentary box. Hugo Luis, former iRacing world champion, is down in the production booth controlling all the action, and we've got TV cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. Lewis, what an interesting opening couple of rounds it's been so far. I don't think anyone necessarily expected Valtteri Alander to be leading this championship by almost a full race victory so far, but as we head to California for the first of 2 back-to-back race weekends, this is going to be an interesting race with 35 cars ready to rumble.
Fantastic season that we've had so far. Valtteri Alander on top in both of the races, but going forward into the unknown for the grid so far, oval racing is going to mark something a little bit interesting, a little bit different, and something going to be very, very important as the season unfolds.
Take a look at this series schedule from upstate New York to the bumps of Sebring and now over to the Auto Club Speedway. Of course, this is a track that's going to be undergoing some renovations in the next couple of years, but 2 miles of oval action and many different lines to be taken. In just 7 days' time, we'll head to the streets of Long Beach for the GP there in what should be a very fascinating race. But halfway through the season, we're getting ready for our first oval race. And really, Lewis, the biggest thing on my mind right now is the number of IndyCar regulars missing from today's action. Adam Blocker, trackside with Ilmore Engineering at Road America, where the NTT IndyCar Series will get underway for their race tomorrow. And then, of course, for the Apex Racing Team and I5G, they've got multiple drivers missing in action, and Valtteri Alander, in his quest for a championship, will be aided by those big names missing out.
Yeah, those lack of names, the lack of experience in the sense for oval racing might make things a little bit easier just to get into it. But you know, we're seeing with this lack of experience, you can even see there as we're in warm-up in the background ready for the race, that mistakes could be critical, that crashing might be a thing, and if you've got that lack of experience, it may well be seen over the race.
So let's then take a look at the point structure before we take a look at the championship standings as well. 50 points for a race victor, all the way down to just 5 points for 25th on back. So for 25th through 35th, they will all share some sort of points, but of course, you want to be further forward to try and get some more championship points. Bonus points, a total of 6 to be handed out, and Valtteri Alander very much taking advantage of that. Let's take a look at these championship standings to see the extent of the gap that the Flying Finn has already built over the rest of the chasing pack. 108 points to 65 after just 2 rounds is an astonishing lead, to be honest, Lewis. And for someone like Yao Vaz, a former iRacing World Championship competitor, heading to the oval for the first time himself as well, this will be a very crucial race.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple of disappointments in this group that we can even see. Phil Krause, who started out the season in fantastic form with a podium back at Watkins Glen, did not really make the most of it, did not feel comfortable around Sebring, and lost out a lot of points in that sense, as just kind of struggling to get up the order. Meanwhile, Valtteri Alander took maximum points, a total of 56 from Sebring. Although, let's be honest, Arjuna, it was dominant in a sense of taking all of those points, but it wasn't dominant in a sense of how the race played out. A fantastic battle between himself and Carl Janssen really did lift our spirits for what we can expect from the season.
And I think to some extent here, Alander is being pushed forward. First, it was Johan Harth in the first championship race, where we saw side-by-side between the two of them. Valtteri able to take advantage on the black mark tires, and then again last time out, making those primary tires work to his advantage. That won't be the case here today. No multiple tire compounds to take a look at. Some other names you want to keep your eye out for, if you ask me. Someone like Jose Soria, who qualified well. He was very impressive in the month of May in the iRacing Fixed 500 as well. What are these drivers fighting for? We are on the road to $7,000, and well, for the championship winner, $1,500 all to themselves, but per race prizes as well mean a perfect season top you up to somewhere between $2,500. So there's some pressure on Alander here because he's the only driver to have won a race so far. And of course, for our final race, the ISOWC 500, an increased prize pool on offer as well. But let's be honest, one of the coolest things about this championship, Lewis, is not just the cash prizes, but the fact that the winner of this 2021 season will get a custom 1/18th diecast of their championship winning car.
Yeah, seen a couple of those appearing on Twitter of various other cars from Porsches and whatnot, all popping up. But everyone's getting their own little cut of it. But this is the time that you can win one, meaning that you're installing the value of the championship in that prize as well as the cash prize for itself. So in that sense, great stuff. I love to see it, and that's something that you can really hold on to and treasure for your sim racing troubles and experiences. But let's be real, it is not a long season. And with Valtteri Alander's open to this season, with those 2 victories, there's not a long time for these drivers in teams to be chasing him down. After today, we are halfway through the season.
And I love the way that this season is scheduled, because halfway through, one of the oval races done, and we'll head to the oval to round things out as well. We're taking a look at pictures of the warm-up session that's going on right now, and a bit of a preview of some of the chaotic action that we are in for here today. 150 laps, and to be honest, Lewis, 3-4 wide, that might be the norm here today.
I've seen some cheeky 4 wide on the front stretch running down towards turn 1 with that absolutely stunning backdrop of Mount San Antonio. It really is a beautiful setting here in Fontana, and they're going to be racing hard all the way through the race. It's 150 laps. It is a long one, of course, but at the same time, you're going to see... They've got to play it safe. They've got to play the long game. But I don't know about you. I don't really see that being the case. I think they're going to be fast and frantic in the opening stages. And that experience that we've spoken about, where we've got so many drivers on the grid that may not have as much oval experience as we would necessarily expect, considering some of the names coming into the season, might see some troubles, particularly in the mid-pack. Less so at the back and the front, but more so in that mid-pack struggle.
And so qualifying is already done, so we know what the grid is, and we'll take a look at that once we get into the race in just a couple of minutes' time. But the big thing is, I think, the experience that the likes of Team Talent have been able to share to Kova Esports and Core Sim Racing. Of course, Valtteri Alander, Carl Janssen, Oscar Mangan, newcomers to the IndyCar, but they would have been getting some training, I would say, from those guys from Team Talent. And that's because it's not just an open setup series here, Lewis, but there's so much adjustment you can do in the car. Front and rear ARBs, and then the weight jacker as well that just moves the weight up and down one of the axis on the cars. It really is going to be crucial to stay on top of them and not react, but be proactive in managing your car.
Yeah, if you're reacting to a car that's tight, you're reacting too late, Sonny Jim, and you're no good. It's all about attacking the car from the start of the stint, knowing how it's going to unfold, and that is where practicing over and over and over again. And the thing is with practice is, particularly on oval racing, more so than anything else, is that practicing by yourself is almost worthless. It doesn't mean very much in this kind of scenario. The slipstream applies such a punch. It changes the grip so drastically through the corners. You lose a lot of the front end, some of the rear end, depending on where you are. You've got to be careful. You've got to understand the full structure of the race, and that is why we're seeing them take full advantage of these kind of sessions where they're out on track, they're out playing with each other, they're out understanding how this race is going to progress, and also understanding maybe who to steer clear of and who to trust. Speaking of which,
that I think is a very good point, Lewis. I mean, especially in a long race like this, you need to know who is going to race you clean and who's going to be just that little bit more aggressive and run you that little bit harder. Talking of experience, let's quickly touch on it, because Alander, when we spoke to him in the post-race interview last time, He has 2 previous open-wheel oval races under his belt. It's going to be a mammoth task to try and work his way back into victory lane. Someone else that I'm watching out for here today is Ilkka Happila. 146 World Championship starts in an open-wheel car, but never on an oval. So for some of these guys, they've got a lot of pressure. For the regulars, the IndyCar regulars, someone like João Valverde, who was very quick in qualifying, this is their opportunity, Lewis, to get the championship charge back on track.
Yeah, if you're maybe not had the greatest opening couple of rounds, you feel that you're more of an oval specialist, or you're a mix of both, and you've not taken advantage from those first 2, this is the time when you can march forward, when you can take something from that. This is the beautiful thing about this season, is that we visit 6 tracks, all of which are massively different. In the 2 ovals, of course, here in Indianapolis, wildly different ovals in themselves. All of the race courses of the set are very, very different in the same kind of sense that, we go to Watkins Glen and Sebring that we've already been to, but we've got Long Beach as well as Road America, wildly different circuits, and so it really brings out the best. So far it has been the Valtteri Alander show, as you were alluding to. This feels bad. I don't see it happening today. I think the lack of experience might hurt. I do think, though, consistency will prevail. Potentially a top 5, that kind of region, will be good enough.
And I mean, consistency gets you championships. That's the story and all sorts of things. So we are just moments away from getting into that race session. And boy, am I excited to see these cars going oval racing for the first time. Looking at this IR18 chassis, you and I were talking before we came on air, Lewis, about previous real-world races in the IndyCar here. That was back in the DW12 days when it was very, very racy. Not necessarily sure we're going to see the same sort of raciness throughout the entire portion of the race, but with the addition of the aero screen, I must say, this car really does look like a jet fighter.
It looks the part, especially with a lot of the liveries that we've got on this grid. I was speaking about this to some friends, and obviously in the previous broadcast of the ISOWC, that we have some very, very pretty liveries out there on the racetrack that are looking to take to this circuit for a good couple of hours. I mean, Sebring was a much shorter race than we were expecting time-wise. I wonder if we're going to get the same thing here. This kind of race can drag on a little bit if we're causing cautions. They need to make sure they're getting clean all the way through.
Well, cautions do breed cautions, and, well, I'm going to get a prediction from you, Lewis, before we get to our starting grid here. Andreas Eick will be lining up on pole position. Who do you think, though, is going to be the main guy to watch here today?
Oh, you are mean. Oscar Mankin or Phil Kraus? I'm going that way. I'm not sure which.
Ooh, that is bold. That is bold. Let's go ahead then and take a look at our starting grid here from the Auto Club Speedway. It will be Andreas Eick on pole position for Team Talent. What a job from them to lock out the top 3 positions in that affiliation with Kova Esports. Phil Kraus, second in our season opener, second on the grid here today. Valtteri Alander, the championship leader inside of Christian Steele, who is actually the defending race winner in the ISOWC here at Auto Club back in 2015. João Valverde inside of the Irishman Oscar Mangan on row number 3, with Brendan Lichtenberg and Joshua Chin on row 4. IndyCar regulars, both with Indy 500 wins as well. Jose Soria, Henry Bennett on the edge of the top 10 with Pedro Sanchez Albert inside of Open Wheel 500 winner last November, Hugo Olsen. Frank Levick inside of Brian Carey with Javi Ross and Andrew Kinsella making up row number 8. Austin Espety inside of Pierre Verne in the 62 car for Race Clutch, with Carl Janssen after second place last time out. He'll be starting back in 19th position with lots of work to do inside of Peter Zuber on the edge of the top 20. Severi Seppa, Adam Crane, row 11 with Manuel Domingo and Vilde Wallen on row number 12. Bent Nemthi and Ilkka Happila, they're on row 13 with Jauväs and Balaznar Remenit, the Yas Heat teammates, lining up on row 14. Dean Woods, Cy Andra, 29th and 30th respectively, with Alex Ellis, Indy Lights experience to his name in the real world, inside of the Simsa esports driver, Alexander Walton. Ramez Azam, Riley Thompson and Gustas Grimbergers bring up our 35-car field. Slightly more than we've had the last couple of rounds, Lewis. Let's see how they go here today.
Yeah, a bit of a danger pack in the middle there. You can see them all lined up as we'll get ready to go for our rolling start, which for the first start, as far as I'm aware anyway, the first start they'll be side by side. Each restart after that is all about single file, and we'll see how that plays out. Should we get restarts? Let's be honest, we're expecting them.
we're expecting them, but very much hoping that they aren't the norm and the reality of today's action. We will get a couple of extra pace laps here today because the iRacing team, as part of one of the newest updates, has added that feature for race control to get these cars a couple more laps to build up temperature and pressure and get ready for the action here today. 150 laps with a 40-lap fuel window. It's an interesting strategy for some of these cars to think about, Lewis, especially if you're starting back in the pack.
The real thing here for a lot of these drivers, because 40 laps could go by in no time, it's making sure that you've nailed your green flag pit sequence, that you know how to do it, you've got it done by memory. It's so easy to either undo or overdo, and it's something that I'm sure we'll be talking about as the stints go on, because I get the vibe, we're expecting them over 150 laps, we're expecting them to pit quite a few times. Over those times, yes, whilst quite a few of those might be done under caution, I would be surprised if we didn't get a green flag pit stop, and that part of the race is really what separates the men from the boys, because it's so easy to overdo it. It's so easy to push too hard, to speed in pit lane, and basically to ruin your race. And as I said, it's so easy to underdo it. It's so easy to come in too slowly, to come in too carefully, and to lose seconds and seconds and seconds. And if you do that, you could lose the slipstream, you could lose the draft, and hey, that could cost you an awful lot of positions, because that is going to be quick today and paramount to a good race.
On board with Henry Bennett starting on the edge of the top 10. Someone I think that we really have to watch out for here today, Lewis, as I mentioned it during the grid, Christian Steele, the 2015 Auto Club winner in the ISOWC. A long time ago, and we haven't really talked too much about the history of this series as well, because this was a league that was run for many a year, bringing in the iRacing IndyCar community, full-length races, so many different things, and it's great that here in 2021, when we brought it back, the competition level has been absolutely insane.
Yeah, it is beautiful to see. You really want those. We're about making the future and stuff. We're moving forward, but you do want to see some of that sort of the historical benchmarks coming in and taking to the fore once again. Obviously qualified in 4th position against a team which very clearly have the setup nailed, at least over qualifying. But let's be real here, Arjuna, that qualifying and the race, we speak about this on road courses, is quite different, but a fast car is a fast car. Around here, though, a fast car isn't necessarily the best car to go racing in. They might burn out their tyres, they might not have the speed and the slipstream. There's a lot of different factors at play here.
And that's the great thing about oval racing. I think, for some of these drivers who have come in with the less experience, they're really having to learn trial by fire kind of style. No real, so many people I think who haven't watched oval racing will say it's just turning left. How difficult can it be? Well, these drivers are learning, and we'll get that indication of just how bad dirty air is. I was in a practice session with my Powerslide teammates, Lewis, a couple of days ago, building up their setup for today's action. And well, I was coming in through turn 1, and my teammate Adam Blocker decided to be quite rude to me and just feed me a bunch of dirty air. So guess what I did? Washed up the track and crashed into some of my teammates.
Last time I drove this car was around Darlington, and I can tell you it wasn't a fun experience, because the moment that you get in dirty air, you drive up the racetrack. Around here, you've got quite a wide bit of track surface. There's plenty to play with, but it is such an important factor that when you've got someone directly in front of you, it is as if you can't turn. And also the other thing, again, this is the whole turning left thing, it's easy. You are constantly racing in this. You are always thinking about when I'm side by side, when I'm 3 wide, when I'm pushing, all that stuff. It's very, very difficult and completely intense.
What a start to the season it's been. Watkins Glen and Sebring, the first 2 road courses, so different from one another. And our first oval race of the season here from the Virtual Auto Club Speedway promises to deliver some incredible action. The only other oval we'll go to is the famed Brickyard in Speedway, Indiana, 2.5 miles there. 4 corners that everyone wants to master, to go across the yard of bricks first and drink the milk. Here, though, in Auto Club, no such celebrations. We're only halfway through the championship when we get the checkered flag. At the end of 150 laps, that safety car should be down onto the safety of pit lane this time around. 2 by 2, 35 Indy cars ready to rumble in Fontana with Team Talent 1, 2, and 3. We are Green Flag Racing in round 3 of the ISOWC, and already single file at the front of your field is jockeying for track position. Further back, cars work in towards turn number 1. Already I see some 3 wide action further back in the pack. Look at this rearward shot as dirty air. Well, Pedro Sanchez Albert seems to be finding that out for himself right now, Lewis.
Yeah, looking pretty tricky for that mid-pack. Excellently coordinated, though, at the front between Ike, Kraus and Alander, as they were basically just very quickly getting into single file, allowing Christian Steele no way through into their sort of party pack. Difficult stuff in the mid-pack, but everyone's clean through lap 1.
So Phil Kraus does lead lap number 1, so the teammates have swapped around, but there goes Andreas Ike back to the outside line, and this is where we were talking in the build-up. How many different lines are we going to see? 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe even 5, 6 as well, as cars run themselves up to the outside wall. Lichtenberg already looking to try and make a couple of positions as the teammates out front swap around once more. It'll be interesting to see just how easily they're able to pull away. The field was separated by just 1/10 of a second in qualifying the top 20 cars. Here already, the top 20 cars separated by 4 seconds, Lewis.
Yeah, it makes no sense to leave one car out front. If you're constantly switching, that's where you go faster. You're working together like a team time trial at the Tour de France. You know, you're working together to move forward and pull away from the much larger group behind, which might be going side by side. Joshua Chin, by the way, up to 4th position. He was looking very, very strong in practice. Was taking it 3 and 4 wide, getting aggressive with the racing. Might be burning out his tyres a little bit, but either way, working his way up the order from 8th all the way up to 4th already.
That's 4 positions gained, and he's dropped Alander to the edge of the top 5, so not the easiest start as he's getting his first experience of running in the dirty air. Still swapping out front. I'm looking on my timing screen. There's been some big movers and shakers. Pedro Sanchez Albert already has lost 10 positions down into 21st place. In comparison to him, Pierre Verne is looking very racy right now. The Frenchman up 5 positions into the top 13. They are almost 2 wide throughout the entire field right now, but we are not yet seeing the 3, the 4, and maybe the 5 wide action, Lewis. We'll see coming to the checkered flag.
Yeah, everyone's giving each other an awful lot of room right there. You saw Hugo Olsen was one of those drivers that was desperate to make some moves and went very, very low at 3 and 4. I think maybe going quite low again as he's joined as well by Oscar Mangan, taking that lowest line through 1 and 2. Not something that we feel is an ideal setup to take on, you know, going that low, but some drivers feeling it in the early laps whilst everyone's maybe just getting themselves up to speed. We're more expecting them around sort of the 2nd and 3rd groove.
Lewis, you put the commentator's curse, I think, down on Oscar Mangan, the Irishman. Yep. Now loses the position to the Swede Hugo Olsen. That's 6 positions dropped for the 99 car, but still a long way in this race to go. And this is what we were hoping for, Lewis. A clean start to the race, and even for some of the drivers who are newer to this car, they're building up their confidence right now, but they're not being too aggressive. They are waiting for the race to come to them.
You can see that yellow car as well. That is Hugo Olsen once again going very, very low. You all have more experience than me on this. Surely if he constantly does that, he's going to start burning out that front right, and it's going to get harder and harder to sit in the pack. Although I guess he is at least removing the dirty air from his nose through the important part of the racetrack as they're once again going side by side and once again switching for the lead.
They were 3 wide for the lead as well. Joshua Chin trying to take advantage. It's a team talent, 1, 2, and 3. They are looking very strong as we get underway for this first oval race of this 2021 campaign. Kraus back to the pointy end of things. But for Chin, he is looking very strong. And I tell you what, maybe some motivation for Joshua Chin this week. I'm not sure if you follow him on Twitter, Lewis, but there was some drama this past Monday in the Firecracker 400. Joshua Chin called a field filler by a World Championship driver, and Chin, who was a Indy 500 winner in the past, I think took a bit of an exception to that and is showing us right now exactly how strong he is in an Indy car.
I did see it was quite a long, it wasn't a single tweet, it was quite a few. And to be fair, quite rightfully so, because, you know, you don't insult people like that. You don't call them a field filler. That is not fair. And let's be real here, Joshua Chin most certainly not an incredibly talented driver and putting on the show that we were more expecting, in the sense that right up there, battling at the front, team talent taking control here at Fontana. But it's just about how that plays out over the race. It's all good being in control at the early stages and maybe playing out the course of the race. They're working together beautifully at the moment, switching positions when important. Once again, another switch into 3 and 4 as Phil Kraus takes the race lead. But it's about playing together, saving fuel, etc. Someone in this mid-pack could be saving an awful lot of fuel if they're playing their cards right.
And of course, when it comes to fuel saving, for so long in this iRacing survey, it was lift and coast. That was the name of the game. Ooh, something's happened to Cy Andra, tumbling down the timing screen. He's down onto pit road, so not sure if something's happened for Andra. But we've at least got our first car with some sort of issue as he slides his way into the box. We'll have to try and see if we get an update from the VRS satellite racing team. But for so long, the name of the game for fuel saving was lift and coast. But in this IndyCar, fuel maps have very much become an effective tool to manage your fuel consumption over the course of the run. No longer is it just bumping it down into map 8 under caution. Use maps 1 through 5 to see what you can do in the early stages. 10 laps in the books, and I'm delighted to say it has been an awfully clean start. All of these drivers very much being respectful. And if you didn't think setup was important at an oval, Lewis, I'm just taking a look right now at some of the cars that have been struggling more. You are seeing it's partially driver, but I think also for someone like Severi Seppo, Vilda Wallin in the Three Crowns Racing with Indy Alliance team alliance there, they're both down almost 10 positions each at the tail end of the field. I don't think they're just being safe right now. They're just struggling with the amount of dirty air that 34 Indy cars can produce in front of you.
I said before, it's not just about being quick in practice, being quick in qualifying. It's about being quick in the race as well. You can see there's a little bit of a split there in the gap. There is Seppo way down, like you say, 29th position, very much struggling. There is a bit of a gap, although I think it might have just closed down through the slipstream between sort of the top 6 and then 7th back. Henry Bennett, who's in that 6th spot, there was a bit of a gap between him and Brian Carey, who was battling it out with Lynchburg over the first couple of laps. Carl Janssen into the pit lane, another one in very early.
You know what I think has happened here, Lewis? For Andra, on lap 7, coming through turn 4, he was up into the outside wall, so damage for him, 55 seconds in pit road to get some repairs. I wonder if for the Swede, the former World Championship competitor as well, if something similar has befallen the number 92 car. What a strong performance last time at Sebring, but the bumps here at Auto Club are very different to what the Sebring International Raceway does produce. Here, though, it is still 1, 2, and 3 team talent, and I tell you what, Lewis, these guys are looking dominant in the early stages right now.
Yeah, it's looking great now. You've got to ask yourself a few questions as the stint progresses. Once again, Phil Kraus to the inside. They're switching twice a lap, basically. It's pretty much constantly Phil Kraus leading across the line, but they're switching into 1 and 2. They're switching into 3 and 4, which is working out great for them because they're both getting a little bit of the slipstream. They're both gaining speed. They're both moving at the max momentum of this car. Obviously, communication is key in this scenario. They're always talking and they're always working together to understand the full position that they're in. The thing is, though, is in a that's the contact that Carl Janssen had with the wall. So it was pretty stonking for that front right suspension. But yeah, let's say for example, let's fast forward ourselves 135 laps and get ourselves towards the end of the race. Who wins? That communication's going to go straight out the window.
And I tell you what, it's going to be an all-out brawl, I think, in the last 5 laps here. Top 10, still only separated by 1.8 seconds. We are going to race into the night here on Fontana. Currently, the time in sim is 6:50 p.m. and sunset expected around 7:30, maybe 7:45, and the temperatures will continue to drop. It's 29 degrees Celsius on the track right now, with the air temperature being 27 degrees. We'll see that drop over the course of the night. On board, we jump with... this is Ike. Got a bit confused there just for a second, but you can just see how comfortable these guys are right now. They're not pushing the issue. They're not forcing anything. They're just waiting until the end. I must say, in a season so far where some have maybe unfairly said that the IndyCar community regulars haven't stepped up and performed to the level that you might have expected. You look at the top 10 right now, Lewis, only Alander is not an IndyCar regular. And he's sitting there very comfortably in 5th position right now. So props to him in that 77 car for adapting very well. But this is kind of what I expected when we came to the Oval.
I'm going to say, you find yourself with a lot of IndyCar regulars. Valtteri Alander may not be one, but boy does he look like one right now. Very, very comfortable, very much in control and doing what's right. Like you can see, as say, like more from the technical alliance, the leaders, teammates, Kraus, Ike, and Chin, all battling it out, understanding the race. Maybe Valtteri Alander, with the lack of experience, isn't getting involved in any of that. Is just sat back, allowing them to do their thing, to be pulled along by that. perfect stuff. Don't get involved in things that you don't understand just yet. Wait until we're more into the meat of the race and then start attacking it and then start using the talent that we know that Valtteri Alander has. So far, it has been a near perfect drive this entire season from Valtteri Alander. And yes, I know my commentary curse is pretty bad so far this season, so I'm not going to say anything too wild, but doing everything he needs to do right now.
Ooh, there's a car dropping down the timing sheets. That's Brian Carey, the Canadian. He is off the track. Something has happened to the 79 car, and somehow we stay on the green flag condition. So whatever it was, it's clearly not that significant. We'll get on to the RaceSpotTV replay machine as soon as we can, Lewis. Oh, yellow flag is out.
Don't know if this was for the yellow flag, but let's ride on board with Brian Carey. This is into the wall on T4, and you can see there, look at how much it's already broken, that front right suspension. It has completely caved in, trying to stop it on the grass, well out of the way, but there is another thing, I believe, that has caused this caution.
It's Dean Woods and Cy Andra. Of course, Andra was already several laps down, and I have a feeling it's going to be Woods just washing up. Oh, there's contact with the race clutch car in front. I wonder if there was more contact with the Simsa Esports car that now has that front right wheel dangling all over the road. Disaster then for the Yas Heat number 45. Let's see if we can take another look at that one, potentially from this wonderful aerial look. You can see the new damage model is very much getting a workout here, Lewis, and I think if we get more of these crashes, that will be the case for the rest of the race.
Yeah, I find this the new damage model is absolutely superb with his visuals. You know, but I'm bored of just seeing, oh, well, he's had a crash and his wing's fallen off. It's like, okay, cool. Whereas this is so much more detailed and so much more refined and believable. So running up, just moving up a little bit of a lane, courtesy of understeer car getting a little bit tight ahead. Dean Woods nowhere really to go. Had Cy Andra on the outside, and yeah, just fired straight up into the car. For Cy Andra, might be sat there thinking, what just happened? But yeah, for Dean Woods, that is just very unfortunate.
And so, with 20 laps done, the first caution of today's action. And I tell you what, Lewis, I mean, I'm very glad to say that we got 20 laps of racing under our belt. I mean, who can forget the first 10 laps at Watkins Glen? I mean, that was a bit stop and start. This was great. And I must say, if we can take a look at the movers and shakers at some point, that's going to change around, though, because it looks like some cars are down onto pit road and others are choosing some rather interesting strategies.
Yeah, I will say, Josh Chin missed his box. Can confirm at least what, I mean, expected in this scenario where it's tight in pit lane. Of course, there's no contact, at least in the pit box. I think in the fast lane there is, but you've got to be a little bit careful. But just missing his box, having to reverse, losing a bit of time and a couple of positions to boot. So dropping back even behind Henry Bennett and Brendan Lynchenberg. So not good for Josh Chin. Costly mistake, but at least you've made it early. And
we've already seen just how easily he was able to work his way up through the field. Left-hand side, you can see those movers and shakers. Henry Bennett in the 007, now up into the top 5 with 5 positions gained on the day. Some other big movers, Austin Espety in the 7, IndyCar Open champion in the past. Pierre Verne up 6, with Andrew Kinsella, the Canadian, up 3. Further back, though, the biggest mover and shaker is Riley Thompson in the 56. On the edge of the top 20, finds himself up 14 positions. I wonder if for Hugo Olsen there's some sort of technical issue, because I'm seeing him dropping down my timing screen as well right now.
Yeah, I think there's been maybe a little bit of damage that was left over or something in that vein after that, because obviously the debris that is left behind, you can make contact with it, can damage your car. I had that myself when I was racing this car around, of all places, Talladega. Not the best idea I've ever had in my life, but still, a little bit of debris flies across the racetrack. It can damage your car. You must be careful and aware of all that kind of stuff. Here's another look on board with Dean Woods of this crash, and you'll just see how quick it happens. There it is, and away it goes. It is so fast, there's nothing you can do. It's just kind of one of those things. I will say, okay, we're a decent way into the race. We've had a good bit of green flag racing. Why wouldn't you pit?
Well, I'm a bit confused if maybe my timing screen is telling lies to me right now, Lewis, because it says that Ike and Alander out front have not come down onto pit. Okay, so let's try and play out the situation then. We are about halfway through the window in a 40-lap fuel stint. I can't think of any reason why you'd stay out, other than you expect more cautions to fly very, very quickly here.
So as everyone came in, I thought maybe it was a lap down. I thought maybe, from what I was seeing, that maybe Andreas Isow, Valtteri Landa, those cars, maybe not quite recognising them straight from the off. I was like, oh, maybe that's the core racing car. I don't know. And they stayed out, and I was like thinking that's very, very weird. You can see it there. Bizarre move, but I think we're about to go racing again. Very odd.
Well, pace car is down onto the safety of pit lane. Ike and Alander 1 and 2, with Phil Kraus in third, Christian Steele fourth, and Henry Bennett the top 5. We are green flag racing once more, and across the start finish line, already too wide, further back in your pack. You will notice that is Carl Janssen, who is in third. Oh, the sideways moment, and we're going to have another caution, surely. That's Xavi Ross into 33. Contact with the 290 of Peter Zuba. And, well, cautions breed cautions, and Brian Carey nowhere to go. Well, what can you say other than utter carnage here from Auto Club Speedway? Oh, and there's more.
Oh, it is carrying on. I was wondering, because where that car was going right into the middle of the pack, that more was going to happen, and quite clearly that has been the case. A lot to pick through from this, but wow, that is not a great start or a great restart. Cautions, precautions, we were expecting it, and quite clearly was Andreas Isow and Valtteri Landa, but wow, here's on board with Xavi Ross. Let's take a look.
That just looks like way too much weight jacker in the car, and he did a good job to hang on to it for a second, but I think clipped around there by Peter Zuba. And then up the track, you can see more carnage. Carey had already slowed down significantly, but nowhere to go. Simsa Esports, they managed to squeak on through. That's Yao Vaz and the Ass Heat Machine. That's Severi Seppa sliding down, to the inside of the track. I think Alex Ellis in the VRS Satellite Racing car also involved in this. We'll get the aerial look brought to us by ATVO graphical partners at RaceSpotTV. And for Severi Seppa, what happens here? Because I think he gets through the initial part of the incident without too much. Oh, no, he doesn't. That's Alex Ellis and Yao Vaz coming to blows, and the Ilka Happler comes into the mix as well. All sorts of carnage. So I think 6 cars, Lewis, caught up in the second caution on the day.
Yeah, that's going to take a little while to go through investigation-wise. I agree. The initial part is from Xavi Ross. It seems very much like you've got your weight jacket, you've got your car set towards the mid/end of a run, and obviously tyres are wildly different. Once you've got some decent heat into them, your front end starts to go a little bit more so through the stint. And there's more drama on pit lane. This is on board with Ilka Happler, whose car is very, very broken, very much backwards. In his box, coming down a European pit lane on the wrong side of the road. An English pit lane, sorry, not the European, because they drive on the same side as you, but we'll get past that, it's fine.
Well, I'm just laughing right now because Pierre Bourdon in the YouTube chat just pointing out, so we got some Arca brakes here. We'll see what happened to Happel, and you can just see as he's trying to slow things down, the amount of damage he has clearly quite significant, has to back his way into the box, or rather forward his way into the box. Race control is going to be quite busy, I think, Lewis, unsorting all of those messes. I'm just taking a look at the incident sheet right now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 incidents already being investigated. I'm sure that will be added to in the next couple of moments.
Yeah, this is back on board with Alex Ellis, so you'll see this unfolding very, very quickly, just not slowing down enough, and there we go, just unavoidable. Once you've got no front wheel, you're not steering anywhere, so just how that one went, and you're a passenger at that point. I will say from an earlier incident, did get a warning for Ben Snemety, who was involved in this a little bit earlier in the race, so that was the one moving up the racetrack a little bit, I believe, into... Oh, she wouldn't have been into Dean Woods. But either way, got a warning anyway from race control, expecting a little bit more from that, particularly more so from a lack of slowing down, potentially, and sort of adding to the incident.
Yeah, for sure. And just to try and give the update, 35 cars took the green flag, only 24 still on the leading lap because of the number of cars that have had some sort of issues. For Hugo Olsen, we mentioned him slightly earlier, some technical issues dropped him out of the session, Lewis. He finds himself back in, but 3 laps down, lots of work for the Swede to do.
Yeah, not going to be a fun race, but at least, you know, get in there, get involved, have a little bit of entertainment. But it's kind of at that point when you're that far down, you're just trying to get to the finish. There's a bit of advice that you gave them, wasn't it, before the race of just get to the checkered flag, just get to the end of the race. If you get to the end of the race, you're going to get some points. Just reach your way there.
And going off of that, for someone like Gustas Grimbergers, who started at the tail end of the field, Lewis, he's 13 positions up into 22nd right now, and you just talk about the championship points there. That is going to be crucial, and for Gustas, who has experience in the real world, he's going to be driving in Euro NASCAR, or testing Euro NASCAR very shortly as well. Interesting to see now as he approaches the top 20, how much further forward he can go.
Indeed, you can see them watch this beautiful stuff all the way up to the higher side so that they can't overtake us. NASCAR rules, you can't overtake NASCAR rules, iRacing rules, you can't overtake on the inside as we are about to get underway once again.
Also opens up the fuel strategy. No one came down onto pit lane, so for Ike and Alander out front, what will they do as green flag back out, already side by side on the edge of the top 10, on board with Pierre Verne as we fly our way down into turn number 1. We'll be hoping no sorts of issues for the Ori's racing car in front of him. That's Jose Soria. Of course, Soria's teammate Javi Ross found himself with that big slide, running up the track, feeding that dirty air to the race clutch car, as this is a much cleaner restart and what we expected. Out front, it is now still Team Talent 1, 2, 3. Joshua Chin with lots of work to do back in 7th position once more, as we're still on board with the Frenchman Verne to the inside, using the draft in front.
Yeah, I think that might have been Kinsella, who was so close to the wall on the outside of 4. They're going to go side by side again through 1 and 2. They're taking such risk with that wall. It's Jose Soria, just running that sort of tight line just pushes you up there, and there's only one place you're going to end up, and that is the wall. They've got to be careful.
And you got a great view for just a second of how bumpy this track really is. You can see the seams. There's about 4 of them across the track, but even on the regular surface, it is a very bumpy oval, and the drivers really are shaking around. Top 10 now separated by 2 seconds. We'll try and see if we get to the same sort of gaps that we had before as Espiti gets on past Valverde, his teammate in the top 10. A lot more single file this time around, though, and as Henry Bennett eyes the front and Alander in front of him, he's got his mirrors filled with Christian Steele in the number 2 car for i5G. For i5G and Apex Racing Team, we said it at the start, a lot of their drivers have prior commitments. Brandon Trano, of course, the 3-time iRacing Indy 500 champion. He's also a NASCAR pit crew, and, Bob Trano, as he was called by Parker Kligerman last year when he was suspended for a race, unfortunately. He has got the last-minute call-up to go to the Nashville Super Speedway to be pitting there. Zach Campbell sustained an injury in the past week. He's missing the action. Johan Hart, he's racing in the 6 hours of Watkins Glen, unable to do double duty. Then the i5G duo of Matt Pavelski and Christopher Demerit, with some schooling commitments that they had to take care of as well, so unable to be part of the action. It really leaves a lot of pressure on Steele and Lichtenberg. They are running in 5th and 6th respectively right now, with Hugo Olsen, of course, several laps down, still in the mix, feeding some dirty air to all of the cars. And for Alander, you can see still comfortable on those older tires as Henry Bennett up into the top 3.
Yeah, Phil Kraus just got a little bit slow off of 2 and just dropped back there. Might try and still make a move on Henry Bennett, but isn't going to do so. So it is 4th all day long as Valtteri Alander is going to hit the front of the race for the first time. Of course, the 2 leaders be on slightly lighter cars at the moment. They're on less fuel than everyone else behind. They did not pit on either of the previous 2 cautions. The rest of the field pitted on the first one. So they are staying out front at the moment as Ike once again going to go for the race lead. That yellow car in the middle of it, I believe, is Hugo Olsen. So not full position, just trying to get laps back.
And there are some gaps starting to form as Alander jinxes his way back to the inside to the race lead. He has officially led a lap now in every single race this season. That is what he wanted in only his 3rd open-wheel oval start in his career. You can see Pierre Verne, Jose Soria, they're embroiled in a quite fun battle just outside the top 10, but they're now 7/10 of a second adrift of 10th place Andrew Kinsella, who himself has just looked to the inside of Yao Valverde. They are getting racy once more. Lap 34 about to be in the books.
How good is this Valtteri Alander guy? He is absolutely on it. Once again, back to the race lead and playing how Ike and Kraus were on the first stint of the race. So kind of understanding it from that point of view and just trying to figure it out himself in the same way that the other drivers, his other teammates had done so. Once again, going to switch Ike back through exactly as it was through the first stint when it was Ike and Valtteri Alander. The only difference is they've got Hugo Olsen involved in all of this, and potentially the threat looming from behind as that train will be marching this way.
3 wide, Hugo Olsen making things a bit difficult, but of course on fresher tires. He doesn't want to get too hung up, and he managed to cycle his way past Alander in a prime position to take at least one of his laps off of the timing screen, as the 2020 Open Wheels 500 winner would have hoped for more. Technical issues then relegate him to 3 laps down. For Alander, the first time I saw him in action was during the BMW Sim 120 last year when he won alongside his teammate Thomas Tattler at Road Atlanta. Here though, in an open wheel car, he's been competing in the Finnish National Championship, Indy Pro 2000 as well. Clearly very comfortable and putting in the time and the effort to get up to speed, even while working with team talent in that technical affiliation. The driving has been top-notch, to say the very least. Joshua Chin side by side with Christian Steele, and now Brendan Lichtenberg, his teammate, Steele's teammate, trying to slip around the outside as well. Has not been the easiest restart for Chin. He now finds himself looking in his rearview mirrors as Austin Espety might try and come past as well.
Yeah, showing how crucial the missing of the pit box was from Joshua Chin. Just cost himself a time, dropped him back a few positions into this sort of mid-pack battle. I say mid-pack, it's still very much up towards the front, and potential to move even further forward. Just running very, very low through both corners, both sides of the circuit was Josh Chin, and we're speaking this with Olsen. I'm not sure it's the best thing to be doing. It's more about playing the long game round here and making sure you're looking after your tyres. If you're running that low, you're going to start burning out that front right, and then you're going to be getting tighter and tighter as stint goes on. And whilst you can adjust stuff in the car, and whilst the stints aren't ridiculously long, it's just not great.
So about to hit the 40-lap window, which would be the green flag pit window. But for Alander and Ike out front, expect them to extend the stint by. Oh, yellow flag back out.
Now that is perfect timing for Valtteri Alander and Andre Ike. That is absolutely spot on, exactly what they wanted. Xavi Ross once again involved. We'll have to take a look at it, but you could not have timed that better.
I mean, I was just talking about the pit stop window. Literally couldn't have timed it better. It was Xavi Ross once more in the 33. And I think, again, just a little bit too much weight jacker. He's reacting to the car rather than proactively. In fact, maybe Wallen feeding him so much dirty air in that 22 in front as well. A part of the issue for Xavi Ross, who 360, tires will be screaming in agony. The temperature's surely skyrocketing, but Xavi Ross will still be able to continue as we've got the caution out for the 3rd time today, Lewis.
Yeah, no damage, so it's fine. We were expecting quite a few cautions, particularly in the early stages of this race, people pushing fairly hard. That first 20-lap stint was sensational, was kind of almost a bit unexpected, much like the entire green flag run at the previous round of Sebring, which was a brilliant race, by the way. If you haven't watched it, go and check it out after this, of course, and catch up with the rest of the season, because this is going to be a thriller from start to finish, I am absolutely sure. But that timing of that caution, like I say, couldn't be better for our two race leaders, but it was a gamble. It was something that they were trying. Maybe it's worked, maybe they're seeing it's working from them. I still think it's a bit bold, a bit brash, and maybe something I wouldn't have tried, but saving tyres, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and you can see 6 cars have stayed out on track while the rest of the field comes down onto pit road. In fact, it's more than 6 cars, as you can see. The Simsa Esports duo now up into the top 10. Ramez Azam and Gustas Grimberger 7th and 8th position. So it's Phil Kraus, Austin Espety, Josh Chin, the top 3, as Henry Bennett beats Alander off of pit road. There are big changes in this running order. And as we get to this next green flag restart, it's going to be interesting, Lewis, how the race plays out here, because we've got 110 laps to go. It is just within it is rather I should say, beyond the fuel window, so you don't have to do a full stop for at least one of your pit stops. But if you're Kraus, Espity, or Chin, you're looking at this race slightly differently.
Yeah, we're seeing that gamble work now the other way. We're seeing them play something a little bit different. We had that in that first stint of the race where we saw the gamble being made. We saw staying out. Now we're seeing it from some other drivers. Maybe playing the race, as much as it's very, very early, particularly in oval racing, maybe playing the race a little bit backwards and thinking about when you want to make your last pit stop, which is obviously very, very important if you think of it as 40 lap stints. It doesn't fit nicely and evenly into an 150 lap period, which is exactly what we want. So you're kind of more aiming to make your pit stop around lap 110. So it's about working from that point backwards and thinking, okay, I'd pit on 70, I'd pit on 30, okay, but I pitted on 20, so then if I could save fuel through cautions, maybe I can make this work and I could maybe extend it, and taking gambles on much more of a longer part of the race.
And we saw Hugo Olsen very aggressively trying to get to the front of the field, Lewis. That worked out nicely in his favor because he did get a lap back, but dropping down my timing screen once again, I wonder if Olsen's had that same technical issue as he's had before.
Yeah, a disconnection once again from Hugo Olsen. Xavi Ross receiving penalty P06, unable to control the car. That is a disqualification.
Drivers were warned, Lewis, in the race briefing that if they cannot control their car and they cause multiple cautions, they will be parked for the rest of the race. And Xavi Ross has been given his marching orders by race control.
Harsh, but also I have to say, as much as I get it, it is hard out there. They're on the very, very limit, but I get why. You know, it's you're posing a risk to other drivers, to the and to the entertainment of the race as well, which is the most important part from my point of view. You're putting implications in other people's hands and trying to remove that. It's a stressful environment anyway. Either way, lights are out on the pace car. We are about to get underway once again.
It's wonderful having race control in a series like this where the competition level is so fierce and drivers know they have to be on top of their game to control these races. It is now Team Talent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Of course, Mangan being part of that technical affiliation. Green flag back out as we are underway once more from the virtual Auto Club Speedway. Kraus, Espity, and Chin with a rocket of a start there. Valverde sleeping on that restart, Lewis.
That was terrible. Don't know what's going on there for Valverde, but an awful start has allowed the top three to pull away. Really, really not good at all. Levick now trying to get through on Oscar Mangan. Really just not quite good enough. I know it's fine at this point in the race. It's more so if that happened later in the race, you've got a big problem, but not really good enough. Still should be able to hang on to the slipstream and be able to pull his way back up to the top train.
And so, of course, now we've got the queue of cars that haven't come down pit road. Let's see for the cars that have fresh rubber what they're able to do. Alander is 3 wide on the back straightaway right now, and on the inside losing positions. Out front, though, Austin Espity leads his first lap of the season as we see this scramble in the middle of the pack. Steele is 3 wide as well. Oh, there's almost contact up into the outside wall. They just about make it work. This is once more some fantastic racing in this 2021 season.
Yeah, I'd want a spotter right now. I desperately want, and not the iRacing spotter, not a virtual spotter. I want a real spotter, someone telling me what is happening, what is going to happen in this scenario. Because when you're as a spotter, you can see when people are gaining speed off of the corner, when they're going to be alongside. You can give a full picture rather than the sort of, oh, he's there now. You need to understand all this when you're battling 2, 3. Let's be honest, even 4 wide at points in this race as we start going single file.
Side by side, you can see on the right side, it's that leading group where Kraus is back to the front. On the left-hand side, that's the grouping just on the edge of the top 10. You can see the Canadian Andrew Kinsella in that 14 car trying to do some work onto the inside of one of the Simsa Esports cars. Talking then of movers and shakers, because this has really shuffled the pack around. Austin Espity, who leads this race, 16 positions gained from his qualifying spot. For the Simsa Esports duo of Gustas Grimbergus and Ramez Azam, 28 and 25 positions gained respectively. I mean, for a team that doesn't have too much oval pedigree under their belt, Lewis. That last caution cycle, exactly what they needed to cycle their way up further through the field.
Yeah, that's kind of, like I say, taking gambles. If you're a team with a lack of experience in that part, then you might as well take a wild gamble and try and move your way up. Once again, seeing more switching for positions when it comes to that race lead. Phil Kraus back to the front. SPT doing a decent job in working with and not trying to slow down. We did also have in the side-by-side Kinsella and Soria going side-by-side. Kinsella does actually look pretty quick now. There we are back with them. Certainly looks a little bit faster, as for me, Soria is just dropping off the pack in front. I know it's obviously always being attacked, but still, it just doesn't seem that there's pace in his car right now.
Henry Bennett has managed to get on past Rameza Zam and trying to close now onto the leading group. He's the furthest forward on fresh rubber and a full tank of fuel, so he'll be one to watch out for as he tries to work his way back up into the podium positions. A still side-by-side Kinsella running that third groove of a Jose Soria who was very strong in that iRacing Fix 500 that we got to cover on RaceSpotTV. Doing a good job to defend from a very experienced oval competitor. Andrew Kinsella, part of the Lionheart team, builds the setups for all Lionheart competitions. 2019 Lionheart 500 winner as well. He's been so close to a broadcast 500 win in the official iRacing Indy 500. Lost out. I forget what the margin was, but it was so close. He is hoping that one of these days he will finally head into victory lane. Lap 50, so a third of the way through this race, a bit more stop and start than we expected, but once again, I must say, this racing has been absolutely incredible. And you know, the NTT, we get an onboard look here with Gustas Grimbergers. Wonderful to see a driver with LMP2 experience. It kind of actually leads me quite nicely into the point that I was about to make here, Lewis. NTT IndyCar Series, they're racing from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Road America this coming weekend. And, well, Gustas Grimbergers, he shared an LMP2 car with Cody Ware in the past, driving in the Asian Le Mans Series when they did win a race at the Bend. And Cody Ware competing in the NTT IndyCar Series this week. It's such a fascinating weekend because not just Cody Ware joining the grid, but former F1 driver Kevin Magnussen stepping in to replace Felix Rosenqvist.
Yeah, it's been a great season in real life. Had some brilliant races. There was a couple of sleepers in there. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. There was a couple of slow ones in there, but a fantastic season of racing in the real world, which gladly we're having replicated here as well, where we've had thrilling races with a little bit of a slow start as the caution is out once again. What has happened? Lap 52 of the race, and we've got another one.
It's Manuel Domingo in the Radical Online Track Racer car. The 53 has looped it out of turn 2. I wonder if there's contact with another car or if that's self-inflicted, just like with Javi Ross. But cautions are being a bit more regular than we thought they would be today, but it's still a very interesting race. And I wonder now if we'll see the leading couple of cars down onto pit road. There you can see, it's contact with Vilda Wallen, who does a good job to hang on to it by herself. Manuel Domingo, though, he'll drop to 23rd position. Talking about the strategy, though, Lewis, Henry Bennett had climbed his way past Gustas Grimbergers into the top 6. He'll cycle to the front if these cars come down onto pit road.
Yeah, I'm expecting, obviously, those that haven't stopped to come in and make a pit stop. But I'm getting this vibe that at the moment, with how the cautions keep coming out, that because we've seen, the first 20 laps, and then, which is the perfect period, by the way, for it's halfway through a stint, the perfect period for a caution to come out. And it's just basically split the field, not quite down the middle, but with the second caution, we're now seeing a little bit of interesting strategy come out. So that top 5, they are all going to jump down the pit lane. SPT, Kraus, Valverde, Chin, and Oscar Mank, and of course Gustas Grimbergers as well, going to follow them down, as well as a sea of drivers from behind. But we're seeing this split of strategy that's really going to make the rest of the race intriguing to see how things are going to play out. The cautions haven't been sort of at the right time for everyone to come in. It's only been at the right time for 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 people, not the entire 30-car grid.
And it's great to see split strategies once more in this series. In the previous races, it's been the tire strategies that was split. Valtteri Alander controlling races on the primary black mark tires. He will head to the streets of Long Beach next time around, hoping to do the same. Henry Bennett in the 007 finds himself at the pointy end of things. Andreas Ike and Christian Steele in second and third, respectively. Brendan Lichtenberg fourth, Valtteri Alander fifth, with Andrew Kinsella, Jose Soria, Adam Crane, and Bence Nemthry, the remaining cars who didn't come down onto pit road. And so Austin Espety finds himself at the front of those cars with fresh rubber underneath them. Once more, it's going to be a Team Talent train trying to work their way back to the front. They'll hopefully link up with the 76 and their teammate in second. It's interesting to me, Lewis, that we've got a team that has one driver doing one strategy by himself, and then the rest of the teammates working together on a totally different strategy. Not usually what you see here.
No, I agree. Odd call. Very, very bizarre to see that. Because, like I say, normally you'd have your team. You want to stick as close together as possible. You want to be, weirdly enough, a team. You want to be together. You want to work together. You want to come through the field together. That's how it works, how it plays out. It's a little bit easier to do it as a group because you can double team people. You can work together to get by. But, you know, sometimes going against the run of flow, the strategy of the team, is not necessarily a bad thing. You're the team's gamble in that sense. You're the one that might come out on top at the end. It's worth a go because you never know. You want the brand, you want the partnership to be up there somehow. And maybe this is just how it's played out. The thing is, though, is what I'm getting a vibe at. As much as passing at the front is easy, and this is obviously down to a lot of dirty air and such, passing at the front is easy, relatively, when you're working together. Passing in the pack, that is difficult. Now, for Phil Kraus, for that lot that's Oscar Mangan, Josh Chin, Espety as well, all starting down the pack now, around about the top 10, they are going to have a hard time to come through the pack in the same way that Bennett did.
I agree, and I think now as we head into the next portion of the race, this next phase, as an increasing number of cars find themselves stopped on pit road. 35 starters in this race, down to just 28 out there and circulating, with 23 on the lead lap. Vilda Wallen already has got a penalty for that incident. She has dropped to the tail end of this field with an end-of-line penalty. We are about to get back underway. I've lost track of the number of cautions that we've had so far, but Barney the flagman does have the green flag back in his hands. It is Powerslide and Henry Bennett finding themselves out front for the first time this season. We are back underway here at the Auto Club Speedway, as once more it's a great start from the cars out front. Not such a great start from the cars further back as they start to lose track of the cars in front. Build up that speed, use the draft, and they'll close to Bennett out front. This is going to be an interesting restart because I think for the cars on fresh tires, they have to use this to get on past the likes of Bence Nemthry. Austin Espety is stuck behind the 47 car right now, as side by side they work for second position.
There was a slightly better start as well from Juan Valverde on this one, so certainly not asleep. It was a misnomer, a one-off, so back to it as we're seeing them try and slice and dice their way through. Steele trying to attack Ike to get up into second position. Bennett doing comfortable things at the moment, but I'm sure it will be less comfortable once we head into 3 and 4.
Oh, I see Pedro Sanchez Albert is down on pit road now, so not sure if there was a wall tap for him, but it's what we saw the first couple of times. Ike back to the front then for Team Talent. He started on pole, and now we'll try and lead from here. But talking of Barney the flagman, by the way, I always like to bring it up when we talk about IndyCar racing here on RaceSpotTV. For years, one of the voices of the iRacing Indy 500 has been Aaron Likens, and he is now the official flagman for the NTT IndyCar Series. And I must say, what a wonderful job he does there. Not just communicating with us and giving us some of his experiences of being up there in the flag stand, but really a wonderful style and a flourish that we got to see during the month of May and Indy 500 qualifying runs. Back on track, though, for Powerslide Motorsports. It is starting to look a little bit better than it's been for earlier in the season, to be honest, Lewis, because Bennett and Kinsella in the top 5, of course, for Carey and Olsen, they had struggles early in this race, but for a team that I think wanted a little bit more from this championship, this is the race that might propel them forward for the next 3 rounds of this championship.
Certainly is, but let's take a look at that timesheet on the left-hand side in the tower. There is a large gap between 6th and 7th position. Valtteri Alander, who's just on the rear end of the top 5, sat on the train for the race lead with a second gap back to Adam Crane. Espete's worked his way forward, but it's going to be harder from now. He's under pressure from Josh Chin as well, as we see Valtteri Alander and Kinsella going side by side through 1 and 2, but a large gap built. That is going to be a problem.
It's not big enough that they'll be out of draft range just yet, but if Adam Crane can hold up Joshua Chin and company for just a little bit longer, we will see if those cars fall off the train. There goes Alander now on Lichtenberg. He is looking so strong and so comfortable in this 2021 season. I must say, so impressed by not just him, but the entire Kova Esports squad here in 2021. For Hugo Olsen, he has jumped into our YouTube chat and told us, apparently, Lewis, that Swedish summer is apparently a bit too hot for his PC. So it is, I'm sure, heartbreak for his race to go in this manner, because he was looking strong, and for technical issues to rob him of some good points finishes, that will hurt him in the championship standings.
Yeah, it does. Sweden, Finland, all these places, they get very hot in the summer. I am aware of that. I have heard many a story. Valtteri Alander, by the way, speaking of that kind of stuff, probably quite hot in Finland, but not really caring one bit right now, has got all the way back up into 2nd position and is now going to go for the race lead. We ride on board with Valtteri Alander, now to the inside of Andre Ike, and takes the race lead once again. That did not take him long to go from 6th to 1st, and if I am the rest of the field, that's terrifying.
I'm blown away by just how well he's adapted, and heading to Indianapolis, which, if anything, drives more like a road course than a traditional oval does. Who knows how strong the 77 will be. Working with team talent, he will have qualifying setups, race setups working for him. Who knows, maybe Alander will be a force to be reckoned with the next time we get to the month of May here on the iRacing service. The gap between the group of cars has started to come down, as Chin is now in front of Adam Crane, now just 0.4 of a second behind Lichtenberg in 6th. So we are going to see the team talent crew on fresh tires join up with their teammates out front and see what they can do. There is an incident under investigation between Pedro Sanchez Albert and the 32 car of Kalislag Remenik for some sort of start issue. Race Control was expecting to be relatively quiet here today, Lewis, but they've been a bit busier than I think they would have hoped.
I think there was the potential to expect this though. So you kind of you take your lumps. We had a perfectly clean race back at Sebring with very little to look at. So that's our one of the season, is it? Back to it. Yeah, it's not been the cleanest start. Obviously, we've had a few cautions, but a lot of them have been, I was going to say single car cautions. We had that pretty large wreck, but nothing too major. Everything's been, just a single car mistake or this and that. Nothing been a critical error. So far, touch wood, or knock on wood, as apparently you say in America, I don't know, it's going okay, and a lot of these drivers towards the front, they'll want this to play out now. They'll just want to attack the race and just let things happen naturally.
Almost to the halfway point as well, still side by side and swapping for the race lead. I wonder if Bennett and Kinsella, in 3rd and 4th, just saving some fuel. You mentioned it earlier, Lewis. Fuel maps might be something that these cars are thinking about, especially now that we're in this point of the race where a number of cars have retired. You never know. Yes, we've seen a number of cautions, but we could go green to the end from here.
We could. Got to nail that green flag pit stop. I said we're going to get one at some point. Now, this could very much be the run. It's about that kind of time. We do normally see with these kind of races, there is a bit of a trend that you see a lot of cautions early, you see a couple of cautions late, and that midpoint of the race is normally fairly green and where we'd expect a green flag pit stop. That said, the form book for the ISOWC doesn't really exist as we start the season in 2021. We've got plenty to fall back on, don't get me wrong, but there's so many drivers with little experience on this kind of stuff that I don't think the form book necessarily applies in this scenario, because if it did, I wouldn't have called Valtteri Alander being that strong.
Lewis, do you know what the race lap record is in the real Auto Club Speedway?
I do not.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. My mind has been blown. 395.568 kilometers per hour. That was set all the way back in October of 2000 by Gilda Ferran for Penske Racing back in the kart days. But I'm just thinking, we saw that onboard look with Henry Bennett in the 14 degrees of banking. Can you imagine an average speed of almost 400 kilometers an hour?
No. No, I cannot. That would be terrifying. Like, okay, you know, it's fine to do that in sim racing and stuff. Also, we can't do it in iRacing with the cars we have. But follow my point here is that, let's say, for example, you're elsewhere, you can adjust some numbers on the car. You open up the car file and you just adjust the mod or whatever it is, and you add, you know, a ridiculous amount of horsepower, and you take it around the circuit. You think, ha ha ha, that was funny. Whereas to actually do that in real life, where that takes guts. That takes bravery to do, because even thinking about that as an average speed around here is pretty crazy. Because let's be honest, the banking's not that steep. It doesn't carry that much speed through. You've got to have a lot of downforce, and let's be honest, a heck of a lot of power.
And so much confidence. For our American friends, Lewis, that's about 245 miles an hour. My mind is a little bit blown right now about how that felt. And that's a race record that's going to stand the test of time, because, of course, late in 2020, I think it was in September, NASCAR announced that, or rather, the owners of the track announced that this is going to go, the facility is going to undergo a rather significant renovation. No longer will it be a 2-mile super speedway. Instead, we are going short track racing with some very high bank turns, all fitting within the current layout and indeed the current tri-oval as well. And so with construction expected to start in 2021 and to complete in 2022, who knows what that's going to be. The iRacing team did help with some testing and trying to figure out if that's a layout that's going to work. It will be a very different sort of a racetrack, and of course, a shame for the Golden State to, I think, lose one of the prize ovals that it's got. In 7 days' time, I'm so excited about this, Lewis. There is no break in ISOWC competition. It's just a 1 hour and 15 minutes drive with LA traffic factored in from Auto Club to the streets of Long Beach, where our next race will be 85 laps. And if you thought today was a race filled with attrition, Long Beach, and especially, you know, the starts that sometimes we see here on the iRacing service, that is going to be the ultimate test of attrition.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, street circuit racing is terrifying. It's good fun if you get it right. If you're one with the car and one with the track, it is so much fun. If you're not, you're in for a very, very long afternoon, although thankfully, like I say, it's not too far away, so we're okay. We're staying on the west coast, so it's all well good. But Long Beach is one of my favourites when it came to the iRacing surface, to have a laser scanned beautiful Long Beach. I love street circuit racing. It was the one that I'd earmarked at the start of the season to be like, that's a race that I am looking forward to see drivers getting on the limit, to leave absolutely nothing to the wall. It's why I like places like Long Beach, why I like places like Bathurst. You really do see the drivers separate themselves in talent and push it to the limit, because it takes a different level of precision, especially on this. You know, elsewhere, you know, there are some places where you can exceed track limits, or, you know, in other places where you can bounce off walls and kind of carry on going with a little bit of damage. On here, in this car at Long Beach, no siree. You make contact with a wall, your day is done.
And of course, what a race weekend we had from Detroit just a week ago for the NTT IndyCar Series. Some big incidents as well that, of course, we are very glad to hear that Felix Rosenqvist is recovering well. Maybe just sounds like some concussion syndrome. And after what we saw last year with Oliver Askew, it's great to hear that he's getting the necessary time off to build himself back up, because what an incident that was. Such a big hit and so much drama that weekend. Oh, caution's back out. More drama here today. I believe it's because Riley Thompson in the 56 has gone around. So halfway through, the Total Downforce racing car brings out another caution. I must say, Lewis, I've lost track of the number of cautions. Should probably go back and count now.
I think it's 5. I think this is the 5th one. There's been quite a few. You know, it happened, fair enough. Could be a good time for some, not so much at others. We've been through a fairly long stint there, so I'd actually suspect that quite a lot of people are going to be coming down pit road this time just to get themselves fuel and tyres, where we had it last time where there was only 10-20 laps rather between them. There's Riley Thompson, so just losing the rear end out of 4 is actually really easy to do, especially if you've been pushing the rear end of the car quite hard, depending on the line you're running. Getting hot, just overdoing it a little bit, and there goes the slide. What do race control will say about that one?
Well, I think now, though, the busy place and the place that we've got to keep our eye on is pit road with just under 75 laps to go. I would expect everyone to come in, even the cars that came in the last time around, and you can see Alander is followed in by Ike, Bennett, Kinsella, and company. What does Joshua Chin do? He comes down onto pit road. Everyone is down this time around, Lewis. We are back on the same strategies throughout the field.
Which, I'm going to say it, I'm disappointed. I am deadly disappointed, because as much as I love, obviously we'll see them go wheel to wheel and stuff, but I like the wheel to wheel and I like the strategy as well. But now we're back on track. Whatever positions they're coming out in, they need to make sure that they are working forward. We've seen some drivers struggle to make progress up the field. Whereas before, you may think, oh, my strategy will come back to me. I'll pit a little bit later or earlier and I'll get myself into some clean air and or whatever. Right? No, I'll work my way up. The strategy will come to me. Whereas now, the strategy ain't coming to you. You have to come to it. And that is that's the structure that these drivers now have to follow.
Henry Bennett wins the race off of pit road. I wonder if just that experience of getting into and out of the box in an IR18 is going to work out nicely for him. Top 5, Bennett, Alander, Ike, Kinsella, Steele, with Joshua Chin in 6th, Brendan Lichtenberg 7th, Phil Kraus, Austin Espety, and Adam Crane, the rest of the top 10. Something has happened, I think, to Jose Soria. He's just been very slow on the exit of pit road and is dropping to the tail end of the field. I'm not sure if maybe he's just trying to... maybe there's also a pit road penalty here. You can get end-of-line penalties at this point in time. Just a bit surprised to see him slow that early to let on the cars past. Halfway through this race, Lewis, and you are correct indeed. 5 cautions so far. And I'll be really hoping we don't get 5 more to the end of this race.
Going to pull a trend, or not a trend, or something that we noticed at Sebring that has just concerned me. If you've just been watching these cars just cruising around, you might have seen one dropping in and out with a little bit of a connection issue, much like it was at Sebring. Valtteri Alander is having a little bit of a technical problem. Did not disconnect from the race at Sebring. It affected through the middle part of it. I got a bad feeling about that, though.
He'll be, well, praying for everything he's worth that right now that internet issue resolves itself. Check out the in-sim statistics. Does seem like it's settled down a little bit for now, but that is always heart-in-mouth moments. And we don't get, the failures that sometimes you see in the real world. For example, Graham Rahal during the Indy 500, where his pit crew forgot to put one of his wheels onto the car. But as Max Verstappen learned during the 24 Hours of Spa a couple of years ago, Lewis, your brake pedal can fail. So many different things can still go wrong in the sim.
Oh yeah, so much. I mean, I once, I spoke before that I've once had my wheel. I used to have a Logitech G27, and they've got plastic clamps. And I was in practice just before qualifying, and it was a massive bang. I didn't know what it was, but one of the clamps just dropped straight out. Terrifying. I just had to tape it to the desk and carry on. Wasn't great. But yeah, technical problems can happen. Let's see if we can go green to the endo.
5 cautions on the day so far. We are past the halfway point here at Auto Club. The sun is starting to set. Henry Bennett gets us back to the green flag action in round 3 of the ISOWC 2021 season. Valtteri Alander, the championship leader, sits in 2nd with just 2 previous open wheel oval races to his name. It's been an incredible run so far, and as we jump on board with Phil Kraus, look already, this was a much more coordinated start, Lewis. This pack is going to be right on top of each other in just a lap's time.
Yeah, this is the important stuff. If this goes green to the end, then this is the really, really important time to try and make that progress to get up there. If it was to go green to the end, they can make this on one more stop. It'll be a green flag stop, of course, which I've said I'm expecting to see one, but at this point, less sure with the amount of cautions we've had. But yeah, they need to start working their way forward bit by bit. Some drivers have been better than others. Valtteri Alander was absolutely perfect at it, coming from 6th to 1st. Chin has been quite good at it, but there are a couple of drivers that have struggled bit by bit to work their way through.
There's some movement on the edge of the top 10. There's Adam Crane and Yao Valverde swapping around for 10th position. Christian Steele is fending off the charge from Joshua Chin as Ramezo Zam and Gustav Grimberg as the teammates were side by side for just a moment's time. There's the Canadian Adam Crane, of course, at one point in time on older tires, is checking up the momentum of a number of cars. You saw for a moment the track map graphic that we now have here live on RaceSpotTV. A shout out to ATVO, Simon Grossman, Kevin Niatola, and Nick Thyssen for all the hard work they've done, not just to get our 2021 graphics package built earlier in January, but throughout the rest of this year so far, adding so many new things. And a reminder to say subscribe to us here on the YouTube and hit that bell to get notified, because we are always having new additions to our wonderful graphics package. On board with Bence Nemthi, who was new to the series last time around. Great to see, by the way, for the Race Clutch team that worked with Simon Pagenaud in the iRacing IndyCar Challenge as part of that 2 seasons that they had over the last couple of years. They have not necessarily familiar with an IndyCar, Lewis, but they've taken the experience and the lessons they learned from that, and they've applied it here. They are looking much stronger than a newcomer to the IndyCar has any right to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Really finding form in this. By the way, if we go up to 4th position, Josh Chin has got by the i5G duo a couple of laps ago, and has now got himself into this train. Has worked out that no point in going to the inside, doesn't really work. Look at how high he runs through the corners. This is absolutely spot on to carrying momentum off of the corner. Didn't give Kinsella any option but to go low through 1 and 2 and gain the position through holding the high line, trying to do the same thing as Bennett and Alander are battling for the lead. Bennett back out front.
And so the top 10, you've got Alander, the only non-IndyCar regular. The rest of the cars are Team Talent, i5G, or Powerslide Motorsports. So for those wondering where the IndyCar regulars were the last couple of races, well, they've shown up today. But it's Valtteri Alander once more at the lead of this race, and what a season it's been for him. On board with the King of Chins, he tucks up behind his teammate using that draft. It's Andrew Kinsella that slots himself into 3rd. Powerslide 2nd and 3rd. Team Talent now 4th, 5th, and 6th as Austin Espety gets up into 7th as well. So the i5G cars are getting shuffled down, and with only 2 of them in today's action, Lewis, it's going to be difficult for them to play the team games like Team Talent can.
Yeah, that's it. You know, when you're understaffed in a sense, like you would be here, all of that weight of the team, of the brand, is on your shoulders, and it is a tough burden to bear for some, and some aren't so good at it. Other drivers thrive in that area where it's like their opportunity to step forward and to make their mark, as we've got them not 5 wide, but they are 5 cars picking 5 different lines through 1 and 2. This is why I absolutely love Fontana, because it is wide open. You pick what line you work. It's hard to tell you which one's the fastest around there.
And so for now, it's 2 wide, almost 3 rows deep further back. The top 2 are scampering away very slightly in single file. They will work once more across the start-finish line. 88 laps, or rather 87 laps in the books as we work lap 88 here. This is a much cleaner restart than a couple of the ones that we had before. Much more coordinated as well. The top 16 separated by just 4.5 seconds. They're very much still anyone's game at this point, but there are gaps starting to build between the front 10 and the rest of the pack, and you do not want to lose the draft here, Lewis, because once you do, you just start losing so much time every single lap.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. You've got to be careful with who you're battling with and how you're battling, how hard you are, because if you lose that draft, sure, you might have assistance from that car you've just passed, but let's be honest, you probably annoyed them, and that's not going to help. You need to work together. If you're going to catch a group ahead or something like that, you need to work as a cohesive team. You need to march forward together, and yeah, that's where being a part of a big team where you got drivers to communicate with, that's where that comes in helpful. 3 wide just behind this. We can see that there. I think it's Kinsella as well, just trying to vie for any sort of position, battling it out for 4th, allowing the top 3 to have their own little battle.
Chin uses that outside, gets on past Kinsella, who's now on the edge of the top 5, and let's see if he can hold off the charge of the cars behind. The King of Chin, so impressive in fuel saving and endurance races. Can he do the same thing here today? He had an interesting race in Wednesday in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Could have challenged Adam Blocker for the win at the Indy GP, but a self-inflicted mistake dropped him out of race winning contention. Olander leads, and this time no challenge from Bennett as we come down into turn 1. Ike in third, but Chin in fourth. They will be feeling very comfortable at this point in time, and knowing, Lewis, that if we can get that green flag stop that I think you might have put the jinx down on, things really may shake up in the running order here.
Yeah, like I say, when you get that section, it separates drivers because it's about the level of risk, especially when it's late in the race and you don't have time to come back from that. You have to be bold to make that move. You have to be brave, as we're riding on board with Lichtenberg, the i5G driver that's behind his teammate. You can see Steele there up on the high side. And this is actually what I was going to bring up. Considering our camera is a little bit higher, so, you know, fair enough. If you imagine this being a little bit lower and imagine that sun being in your eyes through 1 and 2, it's hard to see, it's hard to spot, and it's hard to work your way through. Joshua Chin, though, is going for second ahead. You saw him just pulling to the low side through the tri-oval, maybe going to get to the inside of Valtteri Olander as well.
I think Chin wants to lead this race. Olander might have to concede for the time being, and Chin to the pointy end of things as teammate Kraus is down on the inside trying to challenge Henry Bennett. He slides up just into the path of Andrew Kinsella, who will tuck himself back to the inside. Side by side, they work down this back straightaway. This is great stuff as always. This ISOWC season has been such a treat for us to watch and commentate on. Olander, Chin, Ike, Bennett, and Kinsella, the top 5, completing lap 93. There you can see the team logos as well. It's an interesting mix of things. Of course, we have to remind everyone, Olander is not working by himself for Kova Esports, working with Core Sim Racing, working with Team Talent as well. I think that knowledge must surely be helping him. While they are working together, Lewis, it should be noted that they're not talking to one another in this race. Olander and his spotter are sitting by themselves in the ISOWC Discord. Team Talent is talking amongst themselves.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is you have worked a little bit together in practice, so you understand the state of play, and so that helps in itself in this scenario. You don't necessarily need communication. It's almost as if it's already been done, and you're going off of the body language of the car, and you know, you get the vibe from there. That's kind of more important, and you know, you still understand you're all kind of working together in this. But as I said earlier in the race, it's all well and good, them all working together, them all trying to help in a sense, maybe a bit of fuel saving, maybe a bit of just pulling away from the group behind. That's out of the window. That's gone. That's done now. We've finished with that. We are in the meaty part of the race. We're approaching the final third. We're approaching the halfway point of the season. There are drivers in that contingent that maybe haven't had the greatest start to the season that they wanted. Think of Phil Kraus, who said second in the first race this season, only 9th back in Sebring. Desperately wants to use his oval experience to take advantage of this. Josh Chin kind of in that boat. I mean, to be fair, most of them are in that boat where they need to take advantage of this oval, and the person they need to take advantage from is the driver that's currently leading, Valtteri Olander.
Well, and I tell you what now, for Olander, he's just going to have to ride this race out. The reason I brought up the communication, Lewis, is that for Olander not necessarily having, you know, all that knowledge of how to adjust the in-car tools. I remember when I made the transition from endurance racing to open wheel racing like this, American open wheel racing, I spent a lot of time just asking my teammates, where are you at right now on your in-car tools, and trying to copy them. It's hard to really understate how impressive this charge from Olander has been today, because I think you and I were talking before we came on air. A top 10 finish would have been very good for the 77.
Really would have been just consistent points. Top 10, top 5. Hey, getting to the finish and working out how oval racing really unfolds over a race stint before you make a charge for it at Indianapolis at the end of the season. No waiting, absolutely no waiting from Valtteri Olander. Is right in the thick end of things, right in the deep end. But the communication, let's actually tackle that topic from a slightly different point of view. If we go green, if we're expecting, oh, we're not going green, I think I just heard that they might be wreck. No, we're okay. If they go green, they're all going to pit at one point. You want to pit around other people. You want to pit at the same time because you want to use their slipstream. You want to use their group. you're not getting the communication, you don't necessarily know where they're going to pit. You might come through a little bit later and it might cost you.
You can see Pedro Sanchez-Albert had to come down onto pit road. Alexander Walton and Severi Seppo as well the last couple of laps. But the cars out front, they are halfway through their fuel stint right now. And I tell you what, if we continue with this wonderful running, we will get those green flag stops that Lewis promised us. And I think it's going to be at such a crucial time that maybe Lewis will see some drivers do something different. If, for example, Henry Bennett and Andrew Kinsella decide to come down one lap earlier, maybe they can make the undercut work, because the limiting factor in the pit stop here is not the amount of time it takes to fill up the car with 70 liters of fuel. It's the amount of time it takes to put 4 fresh Firestone tires onto the car, and we're looking at about 8 seconds to do that.
Okay, you got more oval experience racing than me. I've got a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Don't let the accent fool you. I have actually tried it. Don't panic. But you've got more oval experience than me. Do you pit at the first possible chance, i.e., around about lap 110, so with around about 40 to go, where you know the limitation of the fuel, or do you try and push it to the end of this tank, which will actually take them up to around about lap 120?
Honestly, Lewis, I wish I had the answer here, because I think you're not necessarily in danger. You will go a full lap down, which is always something you try and avoid. But given that we are down to 27 of the 35 cars still out there and circulating, why not try something different? I mean, we may go green to the end, you never know, but it is definitely looking more likely than if you had 35 Indy cars rumbling around this track. Try something different, do something odd to the rest of your team. I wonder, though, in the case of the Power Slide teammates, knowing that they're being a bit more content as once more Chin goes to the front of the field, swap drafting, just like we see at Indy, the name of the game here today, using that fuel map, doing something different. They may try and extend the stint out. It'll be interesting to see what the lap time fall-off is once we get to the end of the race, because it's only about 0.3 of a second for the leader right now.
Yeah, see, if you were just taking fuel, extending the fuel mileage and stuff is very, very good, because then your pit stop will be shorter bit by bit. Obviously not all we're playing with here, because as you say, the tyres are the limiting factor in the stop. So fuel saving so much at this point is less important than maybe you think, because you know that one stop is going to take you to the end. You know that. It's just the only reason you'd be fuel saving is if you're trying to really extend this stint, so you're coming in as late as possible. Because ideally, if you're putting them a lap down, you want to stop when it's yellow. If it goes yellow, you want to stop then. If you're putting them a lap down, because then you're fairly safe, you're gaining those kind of positions. So there's a lot of strategy. It is really, really complicated. You've got to be brave. And like you say, we're talking of these drivers where, do you want to win this race? Yes, of course you do. How brave, how much are you willing to risk? And that'll be a different answer from different drivers. Valtteri Alander, how much is he willing to risk for this race? Because to me, if I was in his scenario with the 2 wins before, I wouldn't want to risk that much. I take as little risk as possible. If I don't win, I don't win. Just get the points.
Okay, going back to what we were saying about strategy, Lewis, I was right with my first thought about undercut. Jesper Orman, part of the 3 Crowns Racing with Indy Alliance program, has jumped into the YouTube chat and made a very good point. With the undercut, you cycle out just behind the leaders. You get the draft from them so you can build your momentum up again, but you have fresh tires. It's a very interesting call, and to be honest, I really don't want to be a strategist right now, trying to balance the danger of being 1 lap down, trying to pit early, versus trying to make the undercut work.
Yeah, I'm sure you're a bit like me. I love the strategy of ovals. I hate strategizing ovals. Very, very different. Like, sitting up here where we have nothing to lose and nothing to gain is great, because we can go over everything. We can think about how things are going to unfold. When you've got to make that call, like, especially, so if you're a race strategist, it's almost as if it's even more pressure, because you have someone else's race in your hands. It is your decision with when and how their race unfolds. That's why I'd almost always in this scenario be like, hey, you could pit now, but you're the driver, you make the call. And it's a gut-wrenching feeling. It really, really is nasty. It's why a lot of strategists almost remove that idea from the driver and just say, look, pit when I tell you to pit, because at least then the driver just does what they do. You win and lose as a team, and that's where sim racing is becoming a lot more like the real world, where, like you say, it is a team game.
And left side of the screen, you can see there's now a big separation between 12th and 13th positions. Frank Levick leading that train of cars. In effect, the peloton at this point in time, almost 6 seconds adrift from Oscar Mangan in front. So it's a 12-car showdown for the race victory at this point in time. 42 laps to go. The pit window will open in 2 laps' time. Valtteri Alander leads, Joshua Chin in second, Andreas Eich in third, Henry Bennett and Andrew Kinsella rounding out the top 5. There is 3 wide action further back in the pack. That's the 2 Simsa Esports cars duking it out for a second. I must say, if we take a look at the movers and shakers, while the first half of the race was a bit more stop and start than maybe we'd have hoped, it's been interesting to see how different cars have used track position to gain spots on track. Joshua Chin, 7 positions gained so far. Andrew Kinsella, 11 positions gained up into the top 5. And once again, let's highlight the job that Gustas Grimbergus has done here, Lewis. 20 positions gained up into the top 15.
Yeah, doing very, very well at the moment, approaching that final pit stop for them. Same with Azam as well. I did say earlier when marching through the field a little bit with Kinsella that pace actually looks really quite good from Kinsella, and certainly showing that a little bit off the top 4 at the moment, but is going low through 1 and 2 to try and close up and regain the slipstream in all of its glory as the 2 leaders continuing to switch positions. Valtteri Alander, Joshua Chin switching again and again and again. We were seeing this earlier in the race. It switches once into 1 and 2, switches a second time into 3 and 4, getting the call from a few drivers, communicating with others that they are pitting in. We are in the window to reach the checkered flag. We are going to see green flag pit stops here.
So pit stops are imminent, and I tell you what, if this is the running order at the end of the race, I tell you what, George Simmons, if you're watching, start working on the 1/18th diecast for Valtteri Alander. It will take you some time to build it, and then maybe at the end of the season, it will already be ready for someone who looks as though he might be the champion waiting to be crowned, because domination in the first 2 races on the tires. I mean, yes, there was people trying to fight him, Lewis, but let's make it clear. He was the only car that managed to make the primary black tires work in both stints, and he made side-by-side passes on cars that had tires that hypothetically should have been faster.
Yeah, and that is actually going to work out a treat if you can do that kind of stuff at Long Beach. You know, if you play your cards right, it's hard to pass. Oh, just behind this, had to lift out of it massively. Did Kinsella, running way too hard at 4 and just dropping right off the back of this train. Might actually be passed by Christian Steele. There he is. Had to lift out an enormous amount at 4 to avoid hitting the barrier, which we've seen quite a few drivers do already today.
And like you were pointing out, Lewis, Kinsella is committed to running the low line, whereas Steele is almost riding the wall on board with the Canadian. Here you can see is almost down to the white line, about half a lane up at this point in time, just searching for some clean air that is so important in these type of cars. The super speedway configuration has so little downforce. I tell you what, I have a feeling that as we get into the last 5 laps of this race, it's going to be frantic between some of these guys just jockeying for position. There's Valverde slipping on past Lichtenberg, who's dropping to the edge of the top 10, part of the i5G program. Also does a lot of the content production for them as well. I saw at least one person in our YouTube chat saying that they're only here because i5G told them to come and watch it in their Discord. So delighted that you're coming and joining us here live on RaceSpotTV. Still got 3 races in this ISOW season to go. Next time, 7 days from now on the streets of Long Beach, 85 laps in which attrition will surely be very, very important. Then after that, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, the penultimate round of the season, and our final road course. What a track that is in action this weekend with the NTT IndyCar Series. And then at the end of July, the ISOWC 500 as we head to Speedway, Indiana for our own version of the greatest spectacle in all of racing. These guys, by the way, in 9th position, excuse me, they're now 3 seconds adrift of the cars in front, Lewis. So even these guys are falling out of contention for race victory today.
Yeah, it just shows how fast the top. Let's go with the top 8. It's how fast they've been, how well they've worked together. As Ike gets through on Valtteri Alander for second position. Once again, a switch between this. Like, the harder they fight, the more they're just dropping way off this. They need to nail that green flag pit sequence to get back involved. It's why you might see them taking a risk. Valtteri Alander into the pit lane. That was a call that was very, very late, as he has been the first to blink.
And he's all by himself. That is not what he would have wanted. Getting the indication that Joshua Chin in the next time around. So the championship leader, you can see him playing a few games there, trying to make sure he's at the speed limit, trying to make sure he loses no time on pit road. On the right side, there are the race leaders. Joshua Chin to the low line. He is coming down onto pit road this time around. And he will be trying to sync up with Alander as he rolls himself off of pit road. 4 fresh Firestone tires for the championship leader. How much time did Alander spend in pit road? 8.9 seconds. That was a slightly longer stop than I expected, Lewis.
But I think his pit entrance was very, very good. Joshua Chin's almost looked a little bit cautious, a little bit patient. We'll see how they unfold in comparison to each other as we ride on board with Valtteri Alander. Let's be real, this guy does his homework. If there is someone who's going to nail the sequence, based on what we've seen today, based on what we've seen this season, it would be our championship leader and 2-time race winner already this season, Valtteri Alander. Departing the pit lane now is Joshua Chin. And where's he going to be in comparison to Valtteri Alander? He's on the slip road.
There's the 76 on the right side of your screen. He's working his way into his box as well. Bennett, Kraus, and Kinsella yet to come down the lane. There comes Valtteri Alander, and he's going to be slightly behind the car of Joshua Chin, because Chin, 8.6 seconds in pit road. He managed to advance that even further, though, out on track.
Yeah, big. I did not expect that. Like I said, I thought Valtteri Alander's was slightly better on the pit entry, but no. Joshua Chin nailed that. The call as well coming in from Phil Kraus coming into the pit lane.
Kinsella has lost it on pit entry. We are still under green flag conditions. Sorry to cut you off there, Lewis. But for Powerslide Motorsports, one of their 2 drivers finds his hopes of race victory up in smoke. There is damage on the left front, and there's damage to the front wing as well on the Canadian's car. That is heartbreak for Andrew Kinsella.
Yeah, he didn't just lose it by himself, though. He hit Phil Kraus, who was in chat, not happy. An enormous hit on the back of Phil Kraus. We'll have to grab a replay of that. A 360 spin and save from Kraus, but there will be damage. There we go. Look at that.
And, you know, Henry Bennett, probably looking in his rearview mirrors, is very glad that License to Kill was not valid on his particular car. Andrew Kinsella taking out Phil Kraus. That will be some words, I'm sure, exchanged in the post-race. Back to the live coverage then. Christian Steele down onto pit road this time around. He's the final car to come onto the lane. It is Chin, it is Alander, it is Ike, 1, 2, and 3. Here's the replay once more on board with the Canadian, and you can see locks up that left front very, very early on, and from there, Lewis, effectively a passenger.
Yeah, and it's a shame for Phil Kraus, who is out of the pit lane. I don't know how much damage was on that car. Was stationary for quite a while. Disaster, absolute disaster for them. But these two seeming to be the 2 for the lead. Ike a little bit too far off the rear end. Will try and use Slipstream to close up, especially as they battle. Could be 3 for the lead, and I would suspect would be able to close up within the 1 second window. Maybe Steele as well. Joshua Chin's not waiting for anything with Valtteri Alander as he dives to the inside. 30 to go under. This is where things get tense.
This is where the Christian Horner foot taps, if you're in the pit box of any of these cars, will go up. Let's shout out, by the way, Valtteri Alander's crew chief / spotter, Iku Merikala. Hope I didn't butcher your name too much there, Iku. He's done a wonderful job, I think, helping and coaching Alander through the races so far. And I tell you what, for Kova Esports, maybe next time we have an ISOWC season, we won't just see Alander. Maybe the likes of Antti Ahola, Tuomas Tattula, so many talented Finnish drivers, Pekka Toivonen as well. If Alander is this strong, who knows what his teammates could do as well. It is not going to just be a 2-horse race. Like Lewis mentioned, Ike is in position to claw back to the front of the field. Steele is in position, and Austin Espety, one of the biggest movers on the day. 12 positions gained. He might be looking at a race victory here today.
Yeah, it certainly could be. It is coming together as suspected through the slipstream, just pulling each other together, and this group will get tighter and tighter. A caution coming out at this point will be devastating for this group, because essentially what they want is they want to be battling it out with 1, 2, 3, 4 other people, right? You don't want to be battling it out once again with the group. A bit of a note on Phil Krause and Henry Bennett. They are both a lap down. A drive-through penalty has been applied to Andrew Kinsella. Obviously a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact.
I have a feeling in both of their cases maybe some hidden damage on Henry Bennett's car, because that sort of pit lane time indicates to me that there was also a speeding penalty that they had to serve there. Oh, that is heartbreak for those cars, and Andrew Kinsella has a drive-through penalty to serve as well. So race control right on top of the action. Great to have Randy Cheneth and Jerome Kaiser working in race control, not just on the road courses for our manual safety cars, but here as well. Got the automatic iRacing race control system. Our 2 wonderful race control members ready to throw the caution. They're also handing down the penalty side by side across the line. And I think Joshua Chin just about led there as Christian Steele rockets his way down the inside. One thing we should know as we head into the final 24 laps here, Lewis, there is a rule: no passing below the white line, and that applies when you come to the checkered flag as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how aggressive, how defensive cars are coming to the checkered.
Yeah, if I'm the race leader coming out of the final corner, I am bringing it down to that white line off of 4 to try and take what is effectively the shortest run around the curve all the way to the line, and close that idea off. We'll have to wait and see. Christian Steele, though, obviously these guys are all going to be battling it out as hard as it is. The whole team and partnership is sort of out of the window. They are all just going to fight as hard as they can, but Christian Steele for i5G doing all of the heavy lifting for the brand at the moment. Lichtenberg, who's doing an alright job, down in 8th position, but not anywhere near to be a part of this battle. Can't help his teammate out. So it is a 5-car race for the win. Austin Esparti maybe had a little bit of fear that was going to drop off of this train, but managed to slipstream back up to it. And Steele, of course, the defending race winner back in 2015, the last time the ISOWC was in competition. It was a much smaller field that time around, at just 12 or 13 cars. Great to have 35 take the green flag, but we are down to just 27 cars still out there and circulating. A number of cars, for example, Brian Carey, who of course was involved in one of our first cautions on the day. He's in 27th, recovering the points that he can, and who knows, in the scheme of things when it comes to the championship standings, that could be worth prize money. We'll have to take a look at some of those standings in the conclusion of this race. We will be halfway through the season. And I tell you what, Lewis, what a first half it's been, and I can't help but look forward to the next half as well. We'll get back a number of drivers who had to miss today's action when we head to the streets of Long Beach. Qualifying there is going to be oh so tense. It is going to be crucial. You'll need to take advantage. Whatever group you're in, you'll need to nail the lap. And I get the feeling, yeah, sure, race runs, etc. will be a focus for many. If I'm driving, if I'm practicing a lot for qualifying. It's hard to pass on the streets of Long Beach, but also I don't want to be in that mid-pack. It is the danger zone. I want to be towards the front, top 5, something like that. Of course, everyone does. But making sure you can nail that qualifying session time in, time out is going to be critical, and to do it in a number of different conditions as well, so that you're aware as to what happens when the track's hotter, when it's cooler, what to expect in every single scenario. Qualifying is going to be so crucial that's where my focus would most certainly be. Very different to what we'd expect here. And for those who are new to ISOWC competitions, when we head to the road courses, like you said, group qualifying, much like what they have in real-world IndyCar, but with a slight twist to, I think, what some who are talking about a sim competition is going to change. Because if you wreck your car, Lewis, by yourself, you are done for qualifying. And at a track like Long Beach, it's going to be important you get a bank lap in the early stages so that you can really turn up the wick at the end of your group. And that I absolutely love. I really, really do. I think that is perfect because it's so easy to get in qualifying, to jump out there, to throw it around, to bin it, and then go, oh, well, I'll just escape and have another go. No, I like the idea of you enter the qualifying session, you slowly build yourself up. Like you say, you get a banker lap. If you get a banker lap that's a good lap, then you're showing your talent. You're basically saying to the rest of the grid, come at me, I know what I'm doing. And that is a beautiful dynamic that these drivers all have to play with. Whether they're racing or not, you can put in all of the work, come to qualifying, and you're not even on the grid. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic for them to play with, but certainly one that has already provided its own varying challenges over the first 2 road courses that we visited, and I'm sure we're going to see that continue over the next 2.
Can you imagine if we were even more evil like they are in IndyCar in the real world, where if you cause a red flag, you lose your fastest lap times, Lewis? I mean, can you imagine the heartbreak of losing the car by yourself and then losing your lap times and therefore not qualifying for the race? There are so many different factors that go into it, and it's great to have this unique format that really does mix things up. At the line, it will be 15 laps and 30 miles to go. 5 cars with a chance of victory: Alander, Chin, Steele, Ike, and Espety. 3 of them are Team Talent drivers, and 1 more of them is driving the Team Talent setup. What a day it's been for them. And I must say, Lewis, over the course of the opening couple of weeks of this 2021 Season 3 season on the iRacing service, Team Talent has really been a strong outfit across of IndyCar competition.
Right, so I'm not jinxing anyone because, let's be honest, if I make a call on anyone, they're not finishing this race, so apologies, I won't. Out of these 5, who are you favouring? There we go, I'll twist it on you.
Well, I have my own terrible record of commentators' curses. I got to be honest, it's Chin or Olander right now. Ike looks like he's just unable to find momentum. He's searching on that outside groove for something, but maybe he needs the tires to wear a little bit more. Talking of tire wear, taking a look at the track conditions, it's cooled down in terms of the air temperature to 26 degrees, but on the track, it's actually increased in the last couple of minutes, Lewis. It's up to 28 degrees Celsius, so the track really hasn't cooled off too much, and we aren't under nighttime conditions just yet.
No, I was about to say, with how fast they've been running through, this race could have been a lot longer if they cautioned a little bit more. We've had this beautiful green flag run all the way through this final section of the race, at least thus far, knock on wood, and all that. But we're not seeing the sun set completely. It's not dropped away fully behind the horizon, so the track temperature's not cooling down just yet. If the race was a little bit longer, we would see this track evolve very, very differently, which would work for some and wouldn't for others. It just shows how fast these drivers are running. We were expecting it to be nighttime, but the glorious backdrop that we have, not going to go completely dark, and it'll be visible, I feel, to the end of the race.
Race control, like we said, busy. Phil Krause in the 19 is going to get a post-race time penalty, 5 seconds for aggressively moving while side by side with Henry Bennett. So some frustration, I'm sure, from Phil Krause. A wonderful second-place finish in the opening round of the season. Struggled last time at Sebring. Was looking odds-on for a top 5 here today, but now out of the top 10, 18th and 19th run Henry Bennett and Phil Krause. 11 to go. I am loving this right now. And you know what? If Valtteri Alander wins today, Lewis, let's just call the season off. Let's just crown him the champion right now.
3 from 3. Yeah, I'd start sending over my specs for the diecast at that point, because it's looking pretty promising for Valtteri Alander. If he can win on the opening 2 races, come to a style of racing he's not accustomed to, and win here. To be fair, to even top 5 here would be impressive. Let's be real. And as long as it goes green, as long as there's no incident, that is pretty much nailed on. It is 7 seconds back to Oscar Mangan, who's in 6th spot. So that top 5 looks on at the moment. Austin Espety, who's moved up from 17th position to 5th, just seems to get to the back of this train and just can't do anything. Remember back to a couple of stints ago when Valtteri Alander was running in 6th spot, and we spoke and we saw him march his way up. He was in 6th, and he's leading. Austin Espety doesn't seem to have that in the car. He doesn't seem to have that ability to pass, and we're also seeing that from Andre Ike. Christian Steele, though, actually feel is just being a bit more patient in his position.
So let's see, it's less than 20 miles to go. It'll be 8 at the line. Let's look at the championship, because I wasn't making a joke when I commented that, Lewis. Valtteri Alander leads by, what was it, almost 50 plus points coming into the race weekend. Let me list off the rest of the top 10. Yao Vaz, Phil Kraus, Pedro Sanchez-Albert, Carl Janssen, Oscar Mangan, Jose Soria, Johan Haag, Josh Ladd, and Alexander Walton. Guess what? Yeah. Only one of those drivers is in the top 10 right now, let alone getting some good championship points.
Yeah, that's Oscar Mangan, who's in 6th. And is a long way off. It is impressive. I mean, it's like I say, I was expecting more of those to be up. Obviously, we saw Phil Kraus being up, and obviously that instant really ending that idea. And
three wide. Sorry, Lewis, Ike around the outside. Is he going to get a move done on the 77? We were wondering what Ike could do, and I think he's just found some purchase. There is some lap traffic in front that will play a factor as well, but now pulled along by his teammate out front. It's a team talent 1-2 as Alander tries to fend off the charge from the 76.
Oh, Ike maybe a little bit high. You've got to be careful with doing that around the outside of 4. So he's up into 2nd position. Also, Christian Steele. Seb was waiting, was patiently understanding what was happening here. Andre Ike's going for the race lead at 1 and 2. Christian Steele's going to try and take 3rd position off Valtteri Alander. He's holding it and going high through 1 and 2.
Ike with the overlap and the undercut now on his teammate. And I just wonder if that's where the experience come in. Alander had been trying to run the bottom, and Ike's just found that one momentum, that one opportunity to get on past. The lap traffic in front is going to be a major factor, and they are fighting side by side as well. It's 5 laps and 10 miles to go in round 3 of this ISOWC 2021 season. It's Alander once more side by side.
I'm not sure that's the right position to be in for Ike. He's going to lose out here. Here comes Christian Steele, nearly going to make contact as well. It's close. The back marker there just getting involved. That's Manuel Domingo and Benson Emity as well. The back marker is going to be dropping back here through this pack. That was a dicey moment. Ike losing a position to Steele. That could have been so much worse. 5 to go, 4 to go at the line.
Chin takes full advantage, 6/10 clear as Christian Steele looks to the inside of Valtteri Alander. Oh my word, this is great. Alander, in fact, has to give up that position because now looking in his rear view mirrors for Ike to try and get on past as well. The gap is 4/10 and coming down. They're side by side for 3rd. I think Christian Steele is putting that i5G car into Steely rocket machine mode right now, Lewis, with 6 miles to go.
Yeah, said he was being patient. It looked like he wasn't trying to attack earlier. He was just sat there in 4th position. This time, though, he is going to be on the attack. He is going to be going for Joshua Chin. He's going to go around the outside at 1 and 2. This is just dropped Valtteri Alander and Andre Ike off the back of them. Going for the undercut, the elevator move back to the inside. Joshua Chin just trying to make the decision that's going to work out for him. We're getting 2.5 laps to go. It's going to be tight.
And it's the battle of the purple cars. There was some discussion about which one looked better and who was the original purple. Well, the answer to that is Tim Doyle is the original purple car, but we've got Chin in the 93 and Steele in the 2, side by side at the line. 4 miles to go here from the Auto Club Speedway. Could Valtteri Alander look from the outside to try and get up into 2nd here, Lewis?
He might be aiming for something a little bit more. Depends on how the slipstream works. They're so close. Here we go. Valtteri Alander is going to look to the inside. We're going to go 3 wide into the final corner. Going on to the penultimate lap. Alander hits the front.
The championship leader back to the front here. Steele is going to have to concede for now. He's going to try the over-under. It's 2/10 between 1st and 2nd as Steele once more tries to get on past Chin. There's almost contact. They're 3 wide. White flag in the air. It's Steele to the front of the field. Alander trying to hold on to the inside line. The previous race winner in the ISOWC dating back to 2015 is in the lead of the race, snaking back and forth down this back straightaway. It's Chin on the outside. Alander moves up into him. There's contact between the two of them. Chin's up into the wall. Out of turn 4. It's a drag race to the line. Is it Steele or is it Alander? There's contact between the two of them. It's going to be Andreas Ike, the pole position sitter, that wins. And it's Valtteri Alander flipping himself end over end. He'll have to settle for 4th. What a finish we had there, Lewis. Race control. We'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, that was not a pretty sight. I'm not sure exactly what happened. We'll have to take another look. Absolutely. Christian Steele was leading. I get the feeling that Valtteri Alander might have come down. But wow, wow, wow. What a finish. What a dice between them for the final few laps. We were expecting it. We knew it was going to happen. Andre Ike, though, was just sat there. Couldn't do anything for a position to go and overtake for the lead. Didn't even need to. Contact between the leaders. Joshua Chin was already up in the barrier at that point, and Andre Ike wins it by a quarter of a second.
And I've officially lost my voice, so I got a bit hoarse there, and you can see the contact there. Steele is frustrated. He didn't even get across the finish line. He will drop to 15th position. Race Control has already said they are reviewing the end of that race. But 1, 2, and 3, it is team talent that celebrates here from Fontana as Andreas Ike burns the house down with some very well-earned donuts. What a day, what a finish, and really one that's going to once more leave a lot of questions in the air, I think, Lewis, here.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not sure. That's going to be a hard one. Race Control are going to have to pick that one apart very, very carefully indeed. For Valtteri Alander, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously going for the race win, you want to win. But there was a lot of risk involved. Let's see as we're riding on board with Valtteri Alander. So he's coming down at this point. There's the contact. It happens. It's easy to pick it apart in slow-mo, isn't it, Arjuna? But when it happens that fast, you think of the speed they're running off of the final corner. Yeah, it's hard to pick apart at speed when you're actually going at racing velocity.
And so Alander finishes in 4th because he tumbles end over end across the start-finish line. I think that was about 4 rolls, maybe 5, by the time he comes to a rest on his roof. Steele will be frustrated, and just looking from the one brief look that we had there, I wondered if maybe Steele just left a little bit too much gap. Here are the unofficial race results. We should make that clear, because who knows if Valtteri Alander will hold on to that 4th place finish. But at the end of the day, it's team talent 1, 2, and 3. For Andreas Ike, he will be thrilled. Pole position to victory, not as easy as that sounds after 150 laps of racing. Joshua Chin, he'll be delighted with that 2nd place finish. Not a field filler, that is for sure. Austin Espety, 14 positions gained on the day. Very nice drive from the 7. Valtteri Alander in 4th. Question marks remain if he will remain there. But in the championship picture, that is important, because Oscar Mangan might pick up some very much needed championship points to bring him into that top 4. Yao Valverde in 6th. Brendan Lichtenberg, the highest of the i5G drivers as a result of that late race contact with Frank Levick in 8th. Great drive for Simsa Esports and Ramez Azam and Gustas Grimbergers. They got their way through the carnage, 24 and 25 positions gained, respectively. Pierre Verne finished 3rd in an iRacing Fixed 500 in the past. He's 11th here today, with Vilde Wallen, Riley Thompson, and Jose Soria rounding out the cars on the lead lap. Christian Steele doesn't come across the line. He will finish in 15th place, with Ben Snemthi, Henry Bennett, Phil Kraus, Adam Crane, and Balislav Remenick rounding out the top 20. Pedro Sanchez Albert, Manuel Domingo, Alexander Walton, they're 2 laps down, with Andrew Kinsella, the sole car, 3 laps adrift. Severi Seppa, Ilka Happala, and Brian Carey nursed their cars to the end of this race, but Carly Jansen marks our first retiree with Javi Ross in 29th. A heartbreak for Hugo Olsen with technical issues in the middle of the Swedish summer. Clearly his computer not too thrilled about the conditions in his room. Peter Zuba, Yao Vaz, Alex Ellis all mixed up in an early race incident. Dean Woods and Cy Andra rounding out our 35 cars. We're going to take a look, I think, at the replay once more on the last lap. Here goes the snaking back and forth. We might even get to see what happened with Joshua Chin here, Lewis.
Yeah, it's just as Valtteri Alander moved up, made contact with Josh Chin, didn't realise they were slightly alongside. It was very, very small, but that contact sent Josh Chin up there. There's that contact between the two. Riding on board with the best camera angle, the best seat in the house of all of it. Andre Ike probably can't believe his luck there. For any driver who's had that happen to them, it's a wild mix of emotion, and the noise that normally comes out is, to be honest, it's audible only for the first little bit as you take an enormous breath of air.
So there's going to be 2 things I think Race Control takes a look at. First, it's that. the slight contact between Alander and Chin as Alander forced it 3 wide. You get a good look from Chin's vantage point there of the fact that Steele wasn't all the way down to the white line, and I wonder if that maybe just played a part. Alander expecting Steele to go defensive, like you said there, Lewis.
Yeah, big stuff. Like I'd say, that's going to take a good look. This is why we have race control. This is why we have them picking apart pieces as they'll go through it bit by bit. Oh, Austin Espy, good job. It was the last lap of the race, wasn't it?
And the left front tire, I'm sure, doesn't get that car back down onto pit road. Race control, very quick in their decision making here, Lewis. I can tell you that Valtteri Alander will get dropped to 16th position on the grid behind Christian Steele.
And I don't disagree. I think, like, the thing is, if it was an ideal world, you want to redo that lap again, but this isn't a certain racing game where you can hit the rewind button and give it another go. Everything happens as it goes, and it has happened. They've dealt with it, and what I really, really like is they've not waited. It's not been, oh, we'll see what happens next week. They've dealt with it straight away, and that as a driver is exactly what I'd want. If I've made a mistake, if something's happened, I want it dealt with straight away.
And we're waiting for Andreas Eick to try and join us in the team speak here, which is why we're vamping a bit, Lewis. But let's be clear. I mean, Alander has enjoyed some sensational wheel-to-wheel battles in the first 2 races of the season. I don't necessarily think that was intentional. He's just jumped in to apologize with Christian Steele about the incident, saying that maybe some of the latency of, racing across the globe played a factor there. It's not what he would have wanted, especially when you think about the championship implications.
I mean, you're racing, like you say, across the globe from 2 different sides, but also you're racing at the highest speed possible. It's 350 kilometers an hour, by the way, when they made contact. So incredible speed. And yeah, when you have that kind of stuff, sure, latency might be a little bit of a part of it. And yeah, it unfolded the way it did. Just fairly sad.
So while we wait for Andreas Eick, let's bring in his teammate Joshua Chin, who finished in 2nd. It might have been victory if not for contact with Valtteri Alander. Josh, talk to us about that race, because early in the first portion, you were charging your way up through the field, and then when that long green flag run to finish things off, it was interesting, and really it was team talent dominating from start to finish.
Yeah, I guess we went from struggling at Sebring to really nailing it here. I can't say that I have much to really take credit for the contribution to how fast we were. I didn't have a lot of time this week, so everyone at Team Talent did a great job this week getting things going. And that first run, I just kind of said, I'm going to rip the wall and see what happens. And I got up to 3rd and I went, okay, good to know. And I think everyone else kind of took notice of that. I know when I got behind Brendan and Christian, they were trying to cover that off as well as they could. And they did it pretty well up until that last run when I finally got around him. So hats off to them. Unfortunate for Christian to not have a good finish out of it. But yeah, overall, a really, really good day.
What was it like? Because the track temperatures weren't necessarily scorching in today's action here, but it was speculated that maybe a bit too cool. It will allow for a lot of pack racing, and we did see some incredible wheel-to-wheel stuff, but it did also look like you guys were struggling to try and find momentum late in the run.
Yeah, it was difficult to really get away, especially at the end of the run on low fuel. Everyone kind of closed up. The cars drove a lot better on that lower fuel, and the aero push wasn't so much of a challenge. I kind of felt like it was going to be me and Valtteri at the end, and then all of a sudden, Austin rolled up, Andreas rolled up, and Christian rolled up, and I went, oh, all right, this is going to be more of a fight at the end than I thought. But overall, it went pretty well for that ending, other than coming out of 4.
Only 7 days off now, Josh, and we head to the streets of Long Beach for what should be a very different type of a race. Qualifying is going to be so important. What are your thoughts with just an hour's drive effectively in the real world between this and our next venue?
I love Long Beach. I haven't had good luck there yet in the races I've done, but hopefully my Detroit luck's starting to carry over and I can finish up front. This is a good day in the points. It sucked losing some points after Sebring for the penalties. Served, obviously. But good points day today. Try and get up in the top 10, maybe even top 5, and finish out the season on a strong note.
Congratulations on this podium, Josh. Not a field filler. You definitely proved that today.
Thank you, guys.
So Joshua Chin, let's bring in his teammate straight away, Austin Espety, and get to the second of our interviews while we wait for potentially Andreas Ike. Austin, what a day for you. You charged your way up the field, 14 positions gained. What was it like there in the closing stages when you were hoping to try and make your way into the podium there?
It was pretty fun. We had a good car. I just didn't have enough at the end. I used too much tire. And so I was content with 5th. Then when that happened, I prayed for the best I wouldn't get involved, and you probably saw it and lost the left front coming to the line, but who needs a left front anyway?
Yeah, don't need a left front if you finish in 3rd, that's for sure. Now, you know, the season hasn't been the easiest for you, Austin. I mean, I think a lot of people didn't necessarily expect someone like Valtteri to come out and be as strong as he's been, not just on the road, but here on the ovals as well. What's it been like from your perspective? You know, Team Talent guys, you've got a big group behind you. You're also working with Kova and Core Sim Racing. You're putting a lot of effort to this championship as we head to the second half of the season. What are your hopes for the rest of the year?
Definitely make the show on the road courses. I know Indy won't be an issue. Auto Club, obviously, today it wasn't an issue. Beach would be questionable. Road America will be questionable. I'm just hoping to make it in. I actually learned quite a bit from Valtteri. Quite good to learn from.
I'm glad to hear that it's not just a one-way street and you're also learning stuff from him. What about the rest of the summer as well? Other than ISOWC competitions, what's it looking like for the Team Talent guys? Of course, we see Chin and Jason Brophy and Connor Harrington involved in the Lionheart Series, you and the rest of the team in Indy Elite as well. There's always something going on in IndyCar competition.
Yeah, I'm just going to be adminning the Indy Elite Series, maybe run some Monday night. Nothing crazy, just prepare for ISOWC and then occasionally run majors once a month.
Thanks for joining us, Austin. Congratulations on your podium. Team Talent 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you.
So it doesn't look as though we're going to get Andreas Ike to round things off here, Lewis. And, you know, I can only assume there's a bit of surprise from the 76 camp and the way that last lap unfolded.
I mean, I'd be like I say, I'd be well happy. Of course you would be, but it's like I say, it's such a rush of emotion that there'll be a little bit, and this is again no disrespect, this is just kind of part and parcel of how it is. You kind of get that little vibe, that little whiff of did I deserve this? And the answer is yes. Because you did win, and that's just how it goes. You know, you've avoided the contact, you didn't get involved. That's just how it is. So there'll be a little bit of a whiff of that, but either way, it won't take away from what is a fantastic win in the first oval race this season. We've passed the halfway point with that penalty for Valtteri Alander that'll actually push, and with all the contact and stuff, Oscar Mangan then moves up into 4th spot, and so it is actually now, I think, in a good spot in the championship.
The one thing we know for sure is, George Simmons, if you're still watching, don't get started on that diecast just yet. Things could change in the second half of the season. Momentum could have been on the side of Alander here if he had finished even in 2nd place. What a result that would have been. Instead, he'll drop to the tail end of the top 15. One more look at the replay, looking rearwards from Christian Steele, who can't even imagine the heartbreak there. He was 100 meters, maybe less, away from defending his race victory in 2015. I'll look to try and talk to Steele after this one and understand just how heartbroken he is. But second half of the season, Lewis, let's once more talk about it before we get off air here. Long Beach, Road America, and then the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What traditional IndyCar venues we've had so far this season, and we're going to 3 classics as well, all very different, all very challenging.
Yeah, whilst Long Beach may not be the most thrilling of races, because you know, it's about a test of car, driver, and a racetrack. You know, the racing around there is difficult. Track position is key. However, there are overtaking opportunities. We're not expecting to sit single file for the entirety of the race, but we're going to see drivers reach the very limit of their car and be on the limit for 85 laps of thrilling action, I am sure. Road America, though, very much the opposite of that. We will see a lot of racing. It is slipstream city around there. You're going to see a lot of fuel saving, a lot of racing itself before we end the season on what is a fan favourite. No matter where it's run, how it's run, who, by, or what, racing at the Brickyard is always a special treat, especially if it's a season finale.
And the thing to note about that, the off week that we have between the penultimate and final rounds will hold our ISOWC qualifying for the 500. So 4-lap averages, just like in the real world. And we were talking about some of the penalties in road qualifying for losing your car and not being able to go back out there. Similar sorts of situations in the 500 itself. With that said, though, and with a lot of drama in the air, it's time to say goodbye here from the Auto Club Speedway. We'll be back in action in just 7 days' time from the streets of Long Beach. It's not a long trip for the trucks. It's only 60 minutes, not including LA traffic, but the streets of Long Beach will be a thrilling ride for these IRA teens. What a day it was today, and for the championship, it is blown wide open. Valtteri Landa was looking so strong until the final lap of this race. It's now anyone's game with 3 races left to go. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, thank you to ATVO for their wonderful work on our graphics in 2021, as well as Tyler Maxon powering our TV cameras. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. I've been joined by Lewis McLeod with Hugo Luis down in the production booth controlling all the action. We'll be back in 7 days' time here live on RaceSpotTV. You don't want to miss more ISOWC competition.